I'm admitting people, Peg.
Okay. Omar, I may make you co-host because Dan's going to leave early.
Okay.
You just have to, I'm leaving it, I was in the hospital all day, Omar, so I'm gonna probably leave early. You just have to admit people for Peg if they come late.
All right,
When you're
here we
calling.
go. We're done.
Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast live via Easthampton Media on Charter Channel 193 and live streamed on Easthampton Media's YouTube channel. We thank Executive Director Jen Ramsey and her fabulous team of Tim Riley and Ryan Arnold for their great work and commitment to enabling civic engagement at Easthampton Media. All counselors and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic under an executive order by Governor Baker on March 12, 2020, allowing us to do so. I remind both members of the City Council and the public to remain on mute until recognized by the chair. Also, for members of the public, please remove your camera for the duration of the meeting unless you are participating in public speak or presenting to the council. Thank you very much. This meeting is now called to order. Barbara.
Peg Coniff.
Here.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Erica Flood.
Here.
Omar Gomez.
Here.
JP Kaczynski. Tom Peak.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Here.
Owen Zaret.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. I will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and
justice for all.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 3rd?
so moved.
Second.
Motion is second for the approval of the minutes of February 3rd, 2021. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Peg Coniff.
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Stain.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We are now at the public speak portion of the agenda. For those who would like to participate in public speak on any topic other than what is in the public hearings, this is now your opportunity to do so. Please remember that the City Council may only listen to your comments, but we cannot respond. We ask that you remain respectful and direct your comments only to the City Councilors. Tonight, we will be limiting public speak to 20 minutes. If you would like to speak, please select raise hand under the reactions option. This is a change on the Zoom application. Please remain on mute and keep your camera turned off until called. Before commenting, please state your name for the record and your address or your precinct. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Tonight, we have a public hearing at 6:15, so public speak will be paused at that time and will resume when the public hearings are over. For anyone who would like to participate in public speak at this time, go ahead and raise your hand and we will recognize you.
I see no one.
All right, well, then public speak will be 0 minutes today. All right, then why don't we move right in. Lindsay, will the presentation by the chair on the Commission on Disability take 10 minutes or less?
Yes,
Okay, do you want to kick that off then?
yes. I just am happy to welcome Angelique Baker, and she's the chair of the Commission on Disability. When I reached out to her about renewing her appointment, she answered very excitingly that she's enjoying the work and that not many people in Easthampton even know what they do. And I said, you're absolutely right. So please come share. So here she is.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Angelique. Do you need to share anything or you're just going to speak?
I am going to do a quick screen share. That's
Okay.
and this
let me
is my
make you
first
co-host.
time. So
Let me make you co-host so you can
Okay.
do that. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Hopefully I do this right. Well, hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's not, I don't see where it is, so I can do it without it. Could I
Okay.
email you guys the presentation later?
Please.
Just a short little
That
summary.
would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so so I live in Easthampton over on East Street. I've been on the commission, I feel like for maybe 5 years, when I moved over here with my Habitat house. And I recently last year became the chair, so it's been about a year. I just got voted back in. And yes, people do not know that we are here. So so my mission during my term, or why I'm here, is to try to figure out how to do some collaborations with people, because we're free of charge. And you know, we have people that, you know, like most groups, that have all different walks of life. And you know, so I'd love to do some collaboration, come to other people's meetings when it's available, and just see like where we fit in and what kind of help we can provide to get our name out and to do collaborations. We don't have like a Facebook page or anything like that right now. We go through the planning department, so it's a little bit hard to like, because some of us, you know, there's special disability days or things like that. So that's something that potentially could be in the works. You know, we're small right now. One of the requirements is that the commission be made up of a certain number of members that do have disabilities. So, you know, we have all different people from walks of life. And so, yes, so let's see my notes here. So one of the things that we are doing, what I would like to do, is have some guest speakers. Not only would it sort of fall under almost like a training for those of us on the commission, but almost, you know, for those that are watching that watch it later, may like a training and an information session for them. Like, for example, there's the Massachusetts Office of Disability, and people are sometimes forwarded to that through the commission, but like what actually happens when your complaint does go to Boston? Like, so Jeff Dugan's going to come in this next month and kind of give us a little brief, you know, what happens. Like, I want to connect the dots. I have a long list, like somebody from DMH, you know, before COVID happened, we were going to do a quick little tour of Riverside. And so I went on the tour, but we're going to do a whole tour, like everybody on the commission. And so I just, you know, I want to try to take a little bit of the stigma out of disability. A lot of us have them. Not everybody knows. Not all of them are actually labeled, you know. So we're also doing a survey right now. We've been working on a survey for a long time, trying to make it perfect so we can put it out to the Easthampton community to see where they need help. What does Easthampton need to help with from the disability component? You know, are there buildings that need certain things and stuff like that? And then we are also working on a calendar of events, which is what I was talking about earlier, like, you know, National Disability Day, like what could we do for that? Where can we have a little table, maybe at the, you know, the farmer's market or something, just to get the word out so people feel heard. One of the things that would help us with that is closed captioning. So we have a newer member, she's amazing. And she came on and she said, hey, you guys, people with disabilities, certain disabilities can't even get to your meetings because there's no closed captioning. And so actually, I'm really glad that you guys reached out to us, because I was just about to reach out to you to talk about whether or not in the future there's ever some sort of like funding I could apply for where we could get some closed captioning. And quite frankly, one of the meetings that it might be best for, like if we had limited funding, would be your meeting, because your meeting is super popular. People are always, you know, trying to find out what's going on with the city council. So that's some of the things. We're working on a 1, 3, 5-year plan type of things. You guys just sent out the city ordinance, sorry, and we were just talking about the shoveling. There's an ordinance, I think it was written in 1945 or something. So we were going to talk about going over this. I feel like you guys are reading my mind. So we'll get back to you on that one. See, look at collaboration right there. So, I mean, yeah. And so, you know, Jeff Bagg is my my assistant in that meeting. So, if you have some questions on things that need a little more detail, like him and I chat about those things, and you can reach out to him too, I imagine. Does that answer some questions?
It does. I'm going to ask some of the city councilors if they have any questions of you. Do any city councilors have any questions of Angelique and the Commission on Disability? Councilor Peak.
Yeah, I'm kind of ashamed to ask this question because I feel like I should know more about this. That's why you're here. Like, what are there any particular sort of items of business that routinely cross the desk of your commission? Like, are there certain things in certain city processes that can't move forward without running it by your commission first, or are you more
Okay.
providing like advice to the mayor and the council?
So no, to my knowledge, there's nothing that's come through that needs our approval. So that's why I'm kind of like, hey, we're here. But there are things that are constantly on it, like the snow removal, because we hear about that all the time. And so unfortunately, we don't have a lot of power. And so, we just have to work with like I was just talking to the police, like, well, what happens when somebody doesn't shovel and they're supposed to shovel and that. So it's a learning process for me too.
Mhm.
So I think what's different from prior is that I really want to cover all disabilities. And in the past, there was a focus on physical disabilities, like do doors work at restaurants, do this, and so I just want to be a little more encompassing, mental health, I just want to be, yeah.
Have you, Angelique, connected with Easthampton Media at all when you talk about closed captioning? I know that it's a challenge for them, but I would highly recommend that you reach out to Jen Ramsey, who's the executive director at Easthampton Media, and have a conversation about what might be helpful and what's available. And she may even be able to point you toward potential grants. Because I know Easthampton Media is also looking at it in a live kind of streaming closed captioning. I know you can get closed captions when you replay it, but it's the live aspect that is challenging. So I would highly recommend you reaching out to Jen, and I'll give her a heads up as well.
I know we had a member that was going to check in with that, but then we haven't had another meeting since then. I know one of the things that we ran into was like YouTube, you can click on, but it's not accurate, right? And so, yeah, I'll check in with her again.
Okay, great. Any other counselors have any questions? Counselor Zarek.
Ms. Baker, thank you for being here. I appreciate everything that your committee does. And I agree too, I'm definitely ignorant, and I know that I owe you a conversation, so we'll find some time for that. In the spirit of, you discussed collaboration, are there any barriers, and there don't have to be necessarily, but do you feel there's any barriers right now within the city that might make it more difficult for your committee to operate, where we as municipal partners can be of help?
That's a good question. I'm probably going to have to think on that one and get back to you. Other than the closed captioning, like the funding, we tend to not have any funding. And the same with like having a page, like we really want to get information out, but then that takes somebody to like run the page. And if somebody goes there and files a complaint, like I'm probably not equipped to handle it. And Jeff is the ADA coordinator, but he also may not be. And so that's why I just want to improve communication across the board. And other than that, right now, I'm talking about possibly changing meetings to going twice a month so we can get more work done instead of once a month. But then again, people have lives, they're sick, they have disabilities, so we'll have to see.
That's great. Angelique, I think that's great. And I think kind of giving us the exposure to your commission is really important, because I think I'm thinking about things now that, in terms of how we can help direct you to other areas that might be helpful. would it be fair to say that your commission is kind of an advocate for the folks who come to you and you help guide them? Or do you set specific policies or I'm trying to, it sounds like you're
Right.
more of an advocate and you guide them to the end.
So so what it says on paper is not, like I personally have the time and energy where I want to help people, and there are other people on there. So I don't think it quite says on paper that we're supposed to be an advocate, but I feel like it's hand in hand. Like I really want people to feel heard. I think that's part of it. When somebody's angry, listen to them, validate them. And so that's why I said we all have we all have different goals and what we're good at. Like I'm not good at remembering 300 policies, but there's somebody else that's I'm trying to be very collaborative on this, okay, I'll be the chair, but you got to whatever with me because, we're all good at something.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I think the advocacy is definitely in there. Maybe not supposed to be on purpose, but that is my point. Yes.
Okay, good. Any other counselors? Counselor Derby.
So this is actually a little bit in left field, but I have a quick workaround if anybody's interested on closed captioning. Peg, can you let me share my screen? Can you make me a co-host? And I'll show you.
Do we
Instead
have
of just
time for this now? Peg?
I can show you.
Well, if you can do it in 30 seconds.
I can do it in less than 30 seconds if you let me share. So if you just open up a Google presentation, just blank, and you just press present with nothing there, and then you click down here, closed captioning, then you will have real-time live closed captioning for your video. And it picks up everybody's voices. So if you guys talk, then it'll pick up your voices as well. So I just wanted to share that because it's a quick fix. It's obviously not the best fix, but it's something that can be a stopgap measure in the meantime that doesn't cost any money.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
That was wonderful.
Using my
Thank you.
classes, so I figured I'd share that.
Yeah,
That's great.
interesting.
Thank you.
Peg, Erica had her hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry. Counselor Flood.
Thank you. Angelique, thank you so much for sharing what you do this evening. And you touched on it a little bit, but I was just wondering, when do you currently meet? You mentioned once a month, but is it like or is there a regular time now?
Sorry, the internet went out a little bit. I think, so we meet the first Tuesday of every month at 10. This upcoming month, we're gonna meet at 11:30 because the gentleman from Boston, like that's when he could make it. And so we kind of went around to see if everybody on the commission could make it. And I try to go on Facebook on my personal account and say, hey, we're here, there's a meeting coming up, but
Definitely share with us. Sorry. Okay, Peg?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Counselor Rothschild. Go ahead.
Definitely share that with us because we all and some of us more than others share out on Facebook and other social media. So I'm sure we'd be happy to help spread the word. Or if you have an announcement like that and we have a city council meeting, we can always just add it to our councilor announcements. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelique. This was really helpful, and I appreciate all that you're doing for the folks in the city who may have a disability. It's really, thank you. Really.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And I hope that
Anytime.
we get to, see more of each other.
Anytime you want to come, we'll welcome you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it is now 6:15-ish, and I will take a motion to open the public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to open the public hearings. Barbara?
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Hi.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
JP.
He's here.
Well, we see him. He's here.
okay, yep. Tom Peak,
Hi.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zarrett,
Yes.
and Peg Coniff.
Aye. Okay, public hearings are open. We're going to change the batting order. We're going to have utility pole location first. We're going to have supplement the appropriation and the interdepartmental transfer next, and then we will go with the housing production plan because I anticipate that will take a little bit longer. And so Counselor Zaret, you want to open with the poll location?
Yes, thank you, President Coniff. We have a public hearing for a request by Eversource to install a jointly owned pole on Main Street near to the intersection of the South Street. We met on February 5th, which was a Friday, and I just wanted to say I'm very appreciative of the other members of the committee's time to meet on a Friday, as well as the representative from Eversource. This request is to place a pole between two other existing poles for the purpose of supplying a recloser. Just briefly, for your edification, because I was just educated on this at the meeting. A recloser is basically like a circuit breaker device that automatically shunts electricity to certain sectors of the city during power outages for improved power during those times. We had a good conversation with the representative from Eversource. There weren't really any concerns with this. It was frankly more educational than there were any real deliberations. The property committee voted 3-0 in favor of locating this pole. There wasn't any public input, and I'm not sure if the Eversource rep is here tonight for any questions.
Hi, yep, this is Joe McCarthy, the same person who was at that other meeting. So if you get anything for me, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joe. Do any of the counselors have any questions for Joe McCarthy? I have a weird question, Joe. Well, it's not that weird, actually. So there are two poles that exist today, and this pole is going to go what, in between the two of them?
Yeah, approximately halfway between the two.
And is there a reason whatever this recloser is can't go on one of the existing poles?
Yeah, it's a fairly large piece of equipment, and Eversource's standards, and just for the safety of construction, it can't share. We can't have one pole with multiple different pieces of equipment on it. So reclosers have to be by themselves on the pole.
Okay, all right, thanks. That was my only question. Anyone else? Anyone from the public have any questions regarding a new pole? All right, Councilor Zaret, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, thank you, President Coniff. And I always want to thank the clerk, Barbara Bombard, for helping me with these motions. So thank you. So at this time, I would like to move to approve the installation of one jointly owned mid-span pole along Main Street, beginning approximately 183 feet northeasterly of the intersection with South Street to provide electrical service to a new recloser.
Second.
Motion and a second to request permission to install a mid-span Main Street pole by Eversource. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
JP has no microphone apparently, so, okay,
Tom Peak,
he's aye.
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Now we have a couple of financial issues to take care of. The first one being a supplemental appropriation for $10,000 from the Cannabis Stabilization Fund to the Emily Williston Memorial Library. So this was in the finance meeting, we voted 2-0 to approve this. Councilor Rist was unable to make it. And so essentially, I don't want to mess this up, Mayor, so feel free to jump in here, but this is not replacing the typical appropriation that we make to the library. Is this an additional? This is an additional appropriation for the library. It's coming from the Cannabis Stabilization Fund because this is one of the uses around education that money can be used for, and so we're going to use it at the library. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Wow.
Accurate.
Wow. All right. So again, we voted in finance 2-0. Does anyone have any questions of the mayor on this topic? Counselor Zaret.
Thank you, President Coniff. And Mayor LaChapelle, thank you so much for supporting our library. And this is a great use of cannabis funds. I just wanted to ask, and it's not intended to put you on the spot, but my understanding was that this might be part of a larger appropriation to the library, that this is being done piecemeal as part of a $25,000 appropriation, or that might come later, or is that incorrect?
The hope is once we get through the budget process, that there will be another $15,000 appropriation request, but we're not done with all the budget meetings. We still have 3 to go. So we'll get through all of the department budget head meetings and then swing back and review everything. But that is the hope.
Great. Thank you for your commitment to the library, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone from the public have any questions regarding the appropriation to the library?
I see no hands.
Sorry, Dan, what?
I didn't see any. Oh, somebody's got their hand up.
Okay,
Samuel?
Samuel, go ahead.
You have to unmute, Samuel. Here he comes.
Can you hear me now?
Sam?
No.
Hello?
Getting better.
Okay, I don't have a real microphone. I'm
There
speaking.
you go.
We can hear you now.
Okay, I want to state that currently,
State your name for the record, please.
my name is Samuel Williston. I live in 41 Loudville Road.
Thank you.
Currently, the town of Easthampton supports their library in the lowest 10% of all libraries in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And also they're the lowest percentage of supporting operating procedures. The library is really needs your support more. And I'm just saying that is a great resource for the community, and I hope you support this transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
I don't see any hands, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then I will,
Do you want me to read it?
yes, actually, would you, Dan? Thank you.
I move that the full council approve a supplemental appropriation. The amount requested is $10,000 to be transferred from the Cannabis Stabilization Fund to be transferred to the library, $10,000. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose: resources and funding for Emily Williston Memorial Library.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the supplemental appropriation for the library. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
All right. Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Hi.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next financial item is an interdepartmental transfer to be transferred from the PEG access account to the PEG access account for revenue to transfer to the PEG access account for expenses of $132,000. And I will try to give a very brief history of why we're doing this. And we've never really done this before. So the PEG access is not for me, although I would like to have it. It's for public access and Easthampton media, essentially. And so the way in the past, we have Easthampton media runs their public not-for-profit based on membership or subscribers to Charter. So by contract with Charter, based on the number of members and subscribers, they Charter pay the city, and subsequently the city pays Easthampton Media quarterly an amount of money which allows them to run their station and their broadcasting facilities. Recently, there was a law in Massachusetts whereby now the money needs to kind of come into the city, and then the city council has to appropriate it out to Easthampton Media. We've never had to do that before. It was always a pass through with the city. So and you can never appropriate more than is in the account that the city of Easthampton has for funds that Charter has been sending them. So because we can't do a pass through anymore, the money's been sitting with the city of 132 and change. That money by right should go to Easthampton Media, but we have to do an appropriation now. And we're going to do this. We're going to try to limit this to twice a year. So we'll give them this amount now, and then in 6 months, we will give them another similar account. Roughly, they get $50,000 a quarter, and that is their entirety of their budget. So that's kind of the behind the scenes of this. And it's not new money, it's money that comes from Charter, and it's more or less sitting right now in an account in the city, and we're just going to move it over to Easthampton Media so that they can do what they do. Does anyone have any questions around that? Councillor Flood.
Madam President, this might just kind of put the dot on the I there, is that this money can only be spent for this purpose as well. It's just for the public's knowledge. So it comes from Charter specifically for PEG access.
Yep, absolutely true. Any questions from councilors? Because I did such an awesome job explaining that, I can tell. All right, anyone from the public have any questions regarding this transfer for public access?
I do see one hand raised.
Yes. Landers.
Okay, Joe?
Hey, JP. Yeah, it sounded like you were going to do that transfer every 6 months, not quarterly.
We don't know yet because we haven't done it, but ideally we don't want to do this every quarter if we can avoid it.
The problem is I don't know if the station can wait 6 months at a time.
We've talked to Jen about that, and they're situated. I think obviously if they need the money sooner, we will absolutely do it. But from a process perspective, ideally we would like to do it twice a year. But if we have to do it quarterly, we will.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the cash flow, having done the books for the last several years.
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't see any other hands, Madam President.
Councillor Kwasinski.
Yes, I was just wondering if Joe's on the line, that's great. I'm sure if you can give us a heads up of a month or so, that we can get through the process of getting this into the agenda. So I think
that'll have to get taken up with Jen, because Easthampton Media is moving to a new vendor to provide the bookkeeping and payroll next month.
Oh.
JP, the responsibility of this will fall to Jen Ramsey.
Absolutely, yes.
And she will come to us and say, hey, I need the quarterly payment. So, and we have the great luxury of having the president of the board of directors of Easthampton Media on the city council. So that will also help maintain that. So Councillor Flood is the president of the board. So I think she'll keep an eye on things, hopefully.
We are in great standing cash flow wise. And just the one thing to clarify here is we're actually appropriating more than 1 quarter right now. As President Conniff mentioned, we can never appropriate more than is in the fund. So essentially we're giving ourselves a spending limit, but we're not going to be writing a check for 132,000 right off the bat. So this will essentially give us what will feel like a revolving fund to make these invoiced payments.
Right. So this is a couple of quarters worth of a transfer right now. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. I will make a motion unless Omar or Dan, you want to make?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I have to do something to earn my keep. I move that the full council approve an interdepartmental transfer of $132,000 to be transferred from the PEG access account, $132,000 to the transferred to the PEG access account, $132,000 for the following purpose: to give approval to spend from the PEG access receipts reserved account for cable related purposes consistent with franchise agreements.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the interdepartmental transfer for PEG access funds. Any further discussion? Barbara?
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Dylan Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Abstain?
and Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, now the moment we've all been waiting for. We will now move on to the housing production plan. I'm going to ask Councilor Zaret to do an introduction of it. Then we'll move to Jeff Bagg, the city planner. I think Jeff then is going to kick it off to the consultant who created the report, and there will be a couple of other speakers. So I will turn it over to Councilor Zaret at this time to do the introductory.
Thank you, President Coniff. Just as a question of procedure, does the planning board have to call their meeting to order?
Okay,
Jim Zarvis is
have
saying.
at it.
Yeah, all I need to do is just call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Please proceed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Coniff. So I'll be brief, and I also want to apologize to the council. I included a letter in the packet, but I didn't include my name on it, but I think everyone knew who it was from. So I'm sorry about that. In my haste to make the deadline, I left that out. So the property committee met for probably a little over an hour to discuss the housing production plan. This is our most recent housing production plan since 2014. We met on January 14th, 2021. Jana Tatro, who is the chair of the Fair and Affordable Housing Committee, and Jeff Bagg, who, as you all know, is our city planner, were in attendance. Councilor Peak was there as well. I don't remember any significant input from the public at the time. We had a really good discussion about this document and voted 3-0 to approve it and send it forward to the council for a full vote. And with a few caveats. There were a lot of the discussion revolved around items on the items in the plan that are really kind of low-hanging legislative fruit and easily obtainable. Something that we talked about in the meeting were ADUs, multifamily units and duplexes, as well as the parking requirements related to those, and potential actions that could be taken easily to remedy some of those issues as potential barriers to affordable housing or creating affordable housing. As I stated in my letter, we're currently at 7%. We were at 6% when the 2014 report came out. And the reason that we need to approve these production plans is because we're below the state requirement for 10%. And by approving this plan, that allows the city to take some control over the discussion of increasing our stock of affordable units within the city. Another issue that was discussed during that meeting was zoning ordinance in general, and that while there are items where there might be readily available fixes and amendments, that there may be other areas where the very focused use of a consultant might be needed. And actually at this time, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the consultants who did this report. It was very thorough. The preamble, the demographics section is really interesting. And as I noted in my letter also, there's some really interesting and potentially concerning changes in our city demographics in regards to decrease in our under 25 and K through 12 family population. And it didn't go into causality, but I do wonder if that has anything to do with affordability. And just to be clear too, the letter I include in the packet, I know it's difficult to tell tone sometimes, but the intention was to be earnest, but not to be critical. This document and the one in 2014 set really important guidelines for action. And as part of this process, I reviewed the 2014 plan and was somewhat concerned, but also somewhat understandable now, working my way through my second term on the city council, of, potentially why some items appear on both of the plans and why we haven't taken action on that. There's similar recommendations between the 2014 and the 2020 plans. And again, most notably, those focus around accessory dwelling units, zoning around multifamily and duplexes, again, and some of the stringent parking requirements that are tied to some of these units. There's the overarching call to create more affordable units. And we recently saw opportunities with the One Ferry development, how important it is to look at every single developer that comes into town and see how we can integrate affordable housing into that. There's also just generalized zoning amendments that probably need to be considered. And again, these would be areas potentially where a consultant or close work with the planning board would be valuable. Another item that was mostly mentioned in the 2014 report was using CPA funds to assist renters. They discussed setting up a program to provide first, last, and down payment for renters, as well as potentially helping new homeowners purchase. And I think that with our new program that's assisting with pandemic relief, it might be valuable to look into paying that forward as we move on and hopefully move out of the pandemic, to continue funding that fund. So I'm almost done. I just can't stress enough how important it is, if we're considering voting, if any of the councilors are considering voting yes on this, that a yes vote is basically a pledge to either bring forward legislation or to support legislation that's going to make this work. Simply just saying yes because procedurally there's an important role legally of this document as it pertains to MGL 40B. It's just not simply enough. And I'm grateful that the packet today contains 2 items that were mentioned in both the 2014 and the 2020 plan that are being brought forward by Councilor Peak. I think that's a good start. And I think that while it's important to move forward and to use this, to actually use this document as a guide and take action on it, it's also important to do so prudently. So we have to continue to work with our partners in planning and affordable housing to make this work, and also not flood ourselves, no reference to my colleague, with legislation. So we have to move forward at a steady pace. We also have to move forward at a pace that's committed to making this document a reality and fulfilling our pledge if it's approved. So I will, President Khan, if I don't need to take questions, right, I could just pass this on to the planner.
I'd like everybody to kind of get through the presentations and then we can take questions, because they may get answered as we go through.
Okay, so again, this was approved 3-0, and with kind of those footnotes that I included. These are great documents. I encourage everyone to take a deep dive. And President Koff, I'll pass it back to you for the next speaker.
Okay, I think, thank you, Councilor Zaret. I think City Planner Jeff Bagg, you wanted to do some introductory comments as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilor Zaret. That was a really good introduction to this. I just wanted to just recap that, when we set out to do this, we were really looking to create sort of a data-driven set of strategies for retaining our affordable housing and creating additional affordable housing. And so I think it becomes clear when you get into this that there's really no silver bullet. There's no one thing that we can just do to make this happen. It's really a series of steps that we really have to start taking. And I agree. I think it's perfect timing that in the city council's packet we have 2 amendments kind of starting that process, which is for multifamily developments that have affordable housing to make it easier to make that happen. And then taking accessory dwelling units and removing some of the permit requirements so that it's a lot easier to build. Something that's important is that as part of this project, it's this housing production plan is the big lift. It's part A. We have the consultant who helped draft the accessory dwelling unit regulations, which was an important part of this project. And then the third part is kind of looking ahead and giving us an outline for sort of housing looking forward. So like kind of the idea of a housing master plan chapter. So it's really important part of this is this project is a big lift. It's really a lot of housing data, and it's part of something we're trying to do, which is take some of these big projects, collect the data and produce a report and make us equipped for a new master plan in the next year or 2. So we have the housing production plan, the open space plan. We did the downtown strategic plan. We've done an arts visioning session. So all of those big studies are now completed, and we want to weave them all together to give Easthampton a new master plan in the next couple of years. This is a grant funded project. So we got $35,000 from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, their planning grant program. And CPA, the Community Preservation Act, also contributed $15,000. So it's a big project. It involved the EDIC, our Economic Development Committee, the Affordable Fair Housing Partnership Committee, and of course the Planning Board. And so at the conclusion of the presentation, after questions from the public and things like that, both the City Council and the Planning Board, would be asked to vote to adopt the plan. And what that would do is send it to the state for their review. So I think with that, I'm going to send it over to Judy Barrett, and Judy and I'm going to run the slides, and Judy's going to do the presentation. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Hi, Judy, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. Councilor Zaret, I listened to you and I wished I could clone you. These plans are, they're always gratifying to work on. They're also very hard. And I think that the implementation of a housing plan, if you accomplish anything in your list of objectives, you're ahead of where a lot of communities are. So the fact that there are a continued relevance of some recommendations that were in the previous plan, now in this plan, is fairly common. And you'll continue to work on these things. But I can't thank you enough for that introduction. That really meant a lot to me as someone who's been doing this work for 30 years. So I think with that, Jeff, if you want to screen share, super. So I promise not to drive everybody crazy. We're going to do a little bit of an overview of the needs assessment, which I know you've already read all of this, but I didn't know who might be viewing this evening who had not seen the plan. So I'm going to give you a little bit of overview about the needs assessment, a quick look at the goals of the plan, highlight the strategies that are in it, and then just talk briefly about the site studies, which my colleagues from Dodson and Flinker worked on that really played kind of an instrumental role in thinking through some of the actions that are in the strategic plan. So what it means to have a housing production plan is that you've done an assessment of the makeup of your town to try to understand the housing needs that are currently not met, to also recognize what the community's already done. And your community has done things, and I think it's important to recognize that. To understand what the barriers are to housing development. In many cases, those barriers are regulatory, but there are other kinds as well. Educate the public about the housing needs that exist in your community. Try to think about specific locations where it might make sense to focus on doing some affordable or mixed income housing. And then kind of try to have strategies to sort of guide development toward those places. Because this, after all, is a planning document and you want it to, to be a planned response to local needs. Jeff? Okay. It can help you get more control, as I think was mentioned earlier. If you have a housing production plan that's approved by the state and you produce at least 38 units of affordable housing in a given year, your zoning board of appeals could deny a comprehensive permit for a year if it chose to. Of course, it doesn't have to deny, it can keep going. But I think that the real value of the housing production plan is that it can help you focus on what you need to do. So communities aren't kind of flailing, thinking about all the different things they should do, and they don't really have a focus. I think a housing production plan helps to bring the response to housing needs into focus. There are 5 goals. They don't all fit on one slide, so I broke them into 2. But the goals here, I won't read them verbatim, but to create a variety of affordable housing, to make sure the city remains kind of a welcoming place, to provide housing choices, both affordable and market rate, through a variety of mechanisms that are available to the city, to actively work toward the 10% minimum under Chapter 40B by aiming to produce at least 38 units a year toward the subsidized housing inventory. Next slide, Jeff, so we can get to the other 2 goals. To encourage new development and repurposing of existing buildings for affordable and mixed income housing, especially to reinforce your downtown plan and your sort of neighborhood fabric that you already have, and maintain a predominantly single family character in your established neighborhoods. And then the 5th goal is to promote the development of surplus institutional or town-owned property for affordable housing, which I know you've already heard a lot about, but that is one of the goals of this plan as well. So it makes it kind of consistent with your downtown plan. To make it very clear what affordable housing is, it's housing in our world that those of us who do housing planning work that counts toward the 10% minimum under Chapter 40B. And that means it's housing that's affordable to households with incomes at or below 80% of the median. The income chart that you see on this slide is kind of where your income limits are at the moment. It also has to be housing that's safe and suitable for the household size that occupies it, is protected by a long-term deed restriction, and is made available on a fair and open basis to all people who are income eligible. So that's that whole wrap is what we mean by affordable housing. Next slide, Jeff. So this just sort of takes those income limits and computes very quickly what actually is affordable. And so you can probably imagine that for a 1-person household that's extremely low or very low income, it would be hard to find something affordable in your community. And those are the households that are often particularly well assisted by ADUs because the units are small. They tend to be, below market rate. And so the ways that you can help the extremely low and very low income people is a big topic of conversation in housing planning. And you'll see as we go forward in here kind of why that is so important to focus some attention on those particular income tiers. Go ahead. So the housing needs assessment, there's a lot of data in it. I don't want to drive everybody crazy with it, but just to take a little bit of a look at some of the information that I think is influential over the recommendations that follow. Your growth rate is not drastically declining, but it's flattened out, and it did drop. It appears to have dropped a little bit since 2010. It's not uncommon. It is sort of consistent with, I think, what's generally happening in your region, but it's something to bear in mind. Of course, the fact that the population growth rate is dropping doesn't necessarily mean that your household growth rate is dropping. So this is just a snapshot of what's been happening with your population, really since mid-century. Next slide. Your population is also aging. Now, I'm sure you realize this is happening everywhere. I am in that demographic, by the way, of those 2 pie slices that are pulled out. All of our communities are seeing a growth in the aging population. Naturally, what every community wants to have is kind of a balance. So you have young families, you have kids, you have workers, working age people, and also, your senior population. And you guys seem to be having kind of a larger share of seniors than perhaps some of the other communities nearby. So thinking about the needs of seniors and the needs of those smaller households is important. Your households are changing somewhat. You've had some growth here in the non-family household type, which is, again, not that uncommon. It's just a little bit more pronounced in Easthampton than I've seen in some other places. But this pie chart just gives you a little picture of kind of who's in your community. And the married couple, traditional family is becoming ever less the sort of norm. The non-family households that are headed by men or women who are alone, single parents, these are becoming an ever more prevalent contribution to the makeup of our households, really just about everywhere. And again, it has an impact on the kinds of housing choices that you need to be preparing for as a community. Next slide, Jeff. Household sizes by tenure. This means, how big are the households in your ownership housing versus renters. This is all, these households sizes are declining. And that is partially a function of the fact that your population's getting smaller. Household sizes generally are getting smaller nationally and have been for a long time. So that contributes to the slowing of your population growth. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have less demand for housing, because it's households that drive the demand for housing, not population. But this slide just kind of gives you a picture of sort of how big are your owner households versus your renters, and how does that shape sort of your thinking about the types of housing opportunities that you want to provide. So with declining household sizes and declining numbers of families with or without children, I think you can see that that the makeup of your community, like so many others, is changing. And so the ways that we thought about housing that kind of works for everybody, that's changing too. Next slide, Jeff. Disability population is growing largely because of the aging of your population. It's no surprise, I think, to find that you find somewhat higher percentages of folks with disabilities in the older age cohorts. So this also makes you think about not only the types of housing that you offer, but what kind of universally accessible neighborhoods and areas do you need to support the mobility of people to the extent that they retain mobility? How do you make places visitable? How do you, how do you provide adequate accessible housing for people as they age? And even when they're not aging, the fact that they have disabilities, how do you accommodate their needs in your community? Next slide, Jen. So your household incomes, I just wanted to put this up so you could kind of get a picture of yourself in relation to the communities around you. Median household is the orangey sort of color band. Median family income, which is always higher than household income, or almost always. Median family is the red band, and then median non-family is that green. And I want you to just see this, because if you think about the slides we put up a couple of minutes ago, and you saw that sort of ever larger pie of non-family households in your community, it makes you kind of think about, oh my gosh, there's a particular reason why there's a driving affordability problem here, because many of our households are not falling into that traditional family makeup that has the income perhaps that could afford market rate housing in our community. And again, a lot of what's concurrent with that median non-family lower income and growth in non-family households is the fact that you have a growing aging population as well. Next slide, Jeff. Good. Non-family households tend to have considerably lower incomes. This just sort of gives you a bit of a snapshot here of the percentage of households overall, and non-families in particular, that fall into the lower bands of household income versus the higher ones. And as you can see, non-family households are much more prevalent in the lower income bands and far less prevalent in the upper income bands as your family households. So that's just sort of another way of thinking about the data that were in the slide. We do have sort of an estimate in the plan of how many households in your community have lower incomes. These tiers that you see of 30 to 50, 50 to 80, 80 to 100, these are probably percentages that are familiar to many of you. It's simply a way of thinking about the extent to which there are significant needs. So the under 30% band is what we typically call extremely low income. Households with incomes between 30 and 50%, we typically think of them as very low income, and then 80% is low income. And so you can kind of see, compared with Hampshire County, you have a somewhat smaller percentage of households that are in the extremely low income range. But when you get into the very low and low income, you're somewhat higher. And I'd say especially with the very low income. So that also helps you think about strategically, where do we need to be focusing our efforts? Affordability challenges that exist in your community today, based on the data that we have. It looks as though about 30% of your households are really paying more for housing than they can afford now. A lot of them are lower moderate income. Some of them, many of them are severely cost burdened. That means they're not only paying 30%, but actually over half of their income for housing. So that's what it means to be severely cost burdened. And that's 44% of your households. Not surprisingly, they are more likely to be renters than homeowners. And yet you have quite a few homeowners as well who are struggling to pay for the cost of housing. The lower the income band, the more likely it is that you're going to find severe affordability needs. No surprise. Next slide, Jay. And this just kind of breaks down in a little more detail, to the extent to which the cost burden exists by income band. And I know that that table is probably a little bit difficult to read. It is in the plan, but essentially what it's showing you is that among renters, you have a more severe problem with housing affordability in the extremely low and very low income levels. When you get into home ownership, however, it's the households up toward 80% that are more likely to be struggling with the cost of housing. This little grid of maps is really just a way to kind of illustrate where the housing choices are in your community. So the map that's on the far left is where there is, where the single family dwelling is most prevalent. In the middle is sort of where there's more choice, and then the map on the far right is kind of what are the parts of the city that tend to have the greatest percentage of multifamily opportunities. So, it's not surprising to find that some parts of the city have more multifamily housing. It does, I think, make you think about whether you want to create more of a distribution of that or improve the quality of that which exists in the existing concentration area. Those are policy decisions, but it's something you want to think about. Next slide, Jeff. How your housing has changed over time. I happen to love this particular chart because you can see what happened. When you have the older the housing units, the more likely it is that there's a mix. And then you hit this moment, which is what I call the zoning moment. It's that post-war period when zoning really sort of takes control over what kind of development is happening in communities. It relates to a number of things as well, and I don't want to minimize it, but when you hit that sort of post-war period is when single-family stock really takes over and becomes the dominant means of housing production in your community and frankly many others. So that begins to dwarf the opportunities for choice as single-family development essentially consumes more land. And then you end up with fewer places where you can be thinking about providing more of a mix of housing. Next slide, Jim. This is just a little comparison between renter and ownership units about the size of the dwelling units. So not really a surprise, ownership housing tends to be somewhat bigger. It offers more bedrooms. It's where you're more likely to have your family households. But there aren't a lot of choices in here for for like 2-bedroom housing for families who need rental units, and certainly very little in the three bedroom stock. So if you're thinking about how do you want to make sure that you can house families so that you have people in your community working age and children in your community who are the lifeblood of our cities and towns, you don't offer a lot in the rental side for housing choice for families. Next slide. We tried to just sort of illustrate where the existing subsidized housing is, meaning the units that are Chapter 40B eligible. I don't think it's much of a surprise. They tend to be concentrated around the sort of core area of the community, not so available in outlying parts of town. An ADU ordinance that will help you create small units won't really change this map because ADUs generally are not eligible for the SHI, but they certainly will create choices in your more single family neighborhoods where, where there isn't a lot of choice. So just be thinking about the advantages of having that kind of zoning. Barriers to affordable housing development in your community. I don't think anything in this is going to surprise you. There are regulatory constraints. I don't know how many of you were on an earlier meeting I was in, but I made the comment about the length of your zoning ordinance and I said, yikes. It's quite a daunting book. There are, minimum land for multifamily dwellings is kind of a constraint. You require quite a bit of land for multifamily dwellings, which would work as a disincentive. So thinking about, do you really need to have that kind of density control is probably something you're going to want to look at. Off-street parking, this is one of the first things we look at in every community we work in is what are the parking requirements for multifamily development? Because so often parking is a key constraint. And you do need to look at your parking requirements. They're quite high, not only for multifamily, but that's what I'm focusing on. It's a special permit intensive zoning ordinance. You're not alone in that. Many communities want the special permit because of the sense that it gives them some control. From a developer's point of view, a special permit can be a real disincentive because of the process, the time, the expense, and frankly, the risk of appeal. So I just think generally anything you can do as a community to think about using more as of right site plan review, design review as part of site plan review, and reduce the reliance on special permits really could be a very effective way for your community to encourage more housing development and more types of housing development. Accessory dwellings, and you're going to be talking about this, but there's a special permit requirement right now in the lapse of the permit when the ownership transfers. That stuff needs to go. If you want to encourage ADUs, you really need to think about allowing them as of right. A mini site plan review type of procedure is often appropriate just to make sure that the project conforms to zoning, especially if they're doing an exterior unit. But it doesn't need a special permit. It needs good design standards, and it needs a simple plan review process. And then finally, on the affordability, the affordable housing regulations that you have right now, it seems kind of burdensome for small projects. And the density bonus requires a special permit. You don't really need to do that. You can provide really additional units on an as of right basis as long as the ordinance is clear. Next slide. Okay. So there's a lot of strategies in the plan. I don't want to read all of this to you, but I do want to kind of make it clear that there's a lot of things in here you can think about. At the same time, we didn't want to burden this plan with a whole lot of ideas that may not work. I think it's a real challenge in planning generally to give communities tools that they probably could make work. And at the same time, not so limit the sphere of action that not enough happens. So there are quite a number of suggestions in here. And Jeff, I think if you want to just go to this slide, there are 5 key requirements in DHCD's housing production plan regulation, and we have to address each of them. So one is kind of what zoning districts or areas in your community are you willing to modify your current regulations in order to provide for subsidized housing inventory eligible development. So ideas for this are looking for ways to streamline the approval process for multifamily housing in your downtown neighborhoods. Consider two-family as of right in all districts. There's sort of a coming wave here of rethinking the desirability and need to have districts where only single-family development is allowed. So even just kind of exploring the possibility of allowing two-family wherever you allow single-family would create choices that don't exist. And removing barriers to accessory apartments, which I know there's a draft ordinance you're going to be talking about. Next slide. You can allow housing multifamily dwellings by site plan review, as I said earlier, whether it's with or without the affordable housing piece to it, but just simplify the process. Expanding the ability to develop a planned unit residential development in that district. Again, focusing on the use of a good site plan approval bylaw or ordinance rather, as opposed to the special permit process. Next one, Jeff. The Mill District, you have, the irony about this one is the requirements are so relaxed that there's almost no incentive for the developer to use your 40R district. So there's some suggestions in the plan about maybe how to make that 40R district a better tool or a more effective tool. And then under your smart growth overlay district, you have multifamily residential uses over 4 units are not allowed. Allow this by site plan approval to support the potential development of vacant properties in the district. This is still, these ideas about zoning districts and so forth. Your downtown smart growth overlay district, there are a number of recommendations in your downtown strategic plan. We didn't repeat them all, but simply to say, we're in sync with that and look at those recommendations. Redefine your current density requirement as a minimum allowable density of 20 units an acre, not a fixed requirement. Delete the requirement for at least one affordable unit per project and a maximum of 50% of the units being affordable. Just keep the requirement at a minimum of 20% for projects with more than 12 units. And then again, ease the parking requirements for mixed use projects. The downtown business district in R5, multifamily development is permitted by site plan approval in downtown and R5, but in the same districts, you have multifamily dwellings with 15% affordable as a special permit. Change the ordinance. Treat those in the same way. Don't take the use you want, which is the inclusion of affordable housing, and make it harder to do than the alternative. Next one, Jeff. Moving on to the next regulatory criterion from DHCD, which is identifying specific sites where you would encourage the filing of a comprehensive permit. For those of you who've had a chance to look at the plan, you'll probably recognize that several of these sites are part of the site studies that Dodson and Flinker worked on that are really an appendix to this plan to illustrate, ideas that the city could consider to promote affordable or mixed income development in these specific locations. Some of which are municipally owned, some are just simply in play and would make sense. Next one. Preferred characteristics. The state wants to see you say, what is it that you want based on the needs assessment that's in your plan? Allowing duplexes on non-conforming lots is a potential strategy. Revising your affordable housing component of the multifamily dwelling by, again, permitting multifamily as of right to include affordable units. It's consistent with what I mentioned earlier. Having a sliding scale percentage of affordable units to encourage units for very low income renters. That is the hardest group to serve in affordable housing without subsidy. So one of the things that communities have to think about is if you really want to create some deeply affordable units and you don't have subsidy to give to the developer, you really have to reduce the percentage of affordable housing that you're requiring. And basically give the developer a reason to perhaps do fewer affordable units, but more deeply affordable ones. Identification of municipally owned parcels is another thing you have to do. We've already sort of done that. It's the elementary schools, ideally located to help concentrate development and mixed uses, which is exactly what DHCD is encouraging communities to do. And then the fifth kind of criterion you have to address is what are you going to do regionally? And so you already work regionally, which is great. It was one of the nice things for me about starting to work on this plan was just finding out how many sort of regional organizations out there are connected in one way or another with Easthampton. So continuing to work with PVPC, Valley CDC, and those groups will continue to be needed in order to create the kind and amount of affordable housing that you really need to be planning for. And then perhaps even collaborating with Northampton to seek CHAPA, Citizen Housing and Planning Associations, support for their municipal engagement program. They're running a wonderful program helping communities build a base of effective affordable housing advocacy. So it's not just getting people who support housing together, it's actually teaching them how to be effective. And I think that if you guys thought about pooling your resources with Northampton, it might be very interesting to CHAPA because that would be the first, sort of regional or interlocal effort in that regard. So it's something to consider. And somehow, Jeff, I guess the site study slide fell out of here, which I feel badly about, but I just want to point out that, again, Dodson and Flinker worked very closely with us to look at a number of sites and what could be done with them. That is an appendix to the plan. They are also assisting us with some graphics for a sort of how-to guide that we're working on for homeowners to help them get through the process of creating an accessory dwelling unit so they know kind of where to start and how to get there. And so Dodson and Flinker will be providing some graphics for that as well. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Do any of the counselors have any questions? And Jeff, before we do that, Jeff, did you have anyone else who wanted to speak before we take questions, or is that the entirety of your presentation?
I think if you're willing, I think Jana Tatro from the Housing Partnership should say something. She worked hard on this, and then Tom Brown from EDIC. I think if those two people can speak, they've been working on this as well, so that'd be great.
Sure. Jana, do we need to, are you going to present anything, Jana, or just speak? Okay.
No, I was just going to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jana Tatro. I'm the chair of the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. I'm joined tonight by two of our other members, Jackie Brousseau-Pereira and Brad Riley. We are super excited about this report. It's been a real honor to work with Judy and to work on this plan. We're really excited about it. It has a lot of great data and a lot of great information. I really loved what Judy said, was that it really gives focus to the data. So it really, I think Judy's done an excellent job giving context to why the data is important and why we should care about these things. So it's been a really exciting project. I just wanted to, and many of you have heard this before, but just sort of what I think of as the three main reasons why the housing production plan is important. One is that it shows that Easthampton cares about affordable housing. So this is actually our third housing production plan. And I think it's really important and something that, I'm personally proud of, that Easthampton cares about this issue, because not all communities do. And so we should not take for granted that we have a group of people and a city council and an administration that really take this seriously. And so it tells our residents that we care about affordable housing. It also tells the state that we care about affordable housing, which is really important. It also helps us be eligible for other grants and funding opportunities. So one of the reasons that Easthampton was eligible for the Housing Choice Community Grant was because we had a state approved housing production plan. So it helps us when, the planning department or other departments go after, grants and funding opportunities, to show that we have some of the things that the state is really looking for us to do. And then the third is that it gives sort of purpose and focus to the housing partnership. We are an advisory committee. We don't have any real power. We can't do anything. But when we have something like a housing production plan, it gives us a list of activities that we can work on, that we can come to you, the city council, come to the mayor, come to the planning board, and really try to get some things done. And the 2014 plan had 23 priority items, and the housing partnership worked on about 11 of them. So, that's something that we're really proud of, and that we're really excited to, get to work on the next plan. And, Councillor Peak has already challenged us with actually coming to the council with things that we want to do. And so, we're really excited for that. So, we are really excited, and I'm grateful for all of your attention, and it's a really long plan. And so we are very appreciative of the support.
Thank you, Jana. Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks, President Coniff. A lot of what I'm going to state is probably the obvious, but the EDIC, and again, Tom Brown, I'm a member of EDIC, has recognized for years now that the lack of housing options in Easthampton can definitely be a stumbling block to overall economic development. There's a shortage of inventory, we believe, in all facets of housing, affordable housing, apartments, smaller homes that folks might be looking for as first-time home buyers, or those older folks like myself that might be looking to downsize, and senior housing options. That whole food chain of housing, if you will, from the first time somebody wants to move into their own apartment until the time they're looking for senior housing. There's very, very little inventory in any of those categories in Easthampton. And, I don't think we have to be economic majors to understand that when we have too many people chasing too few housing options, it naturally causes the price of housing to go up. More housing options, more inventory would obviously help to stabilize prices. And I think as Judy said on several occasions, this issue, all of these issues are not unique to Easthampton. They're prevalent throughout the Pioneer Valley and probably prevalent throughout the state. And adopting this housing production plan with its strategies and goals will help Easthampton to address those issues. The plan gives us the roadmap to improve the housing options, but also the zoning amendments such as those being proposed by Councillor Peak. Those provide the tools to achieve those goals. So we have a lot of tools in the toolbox within our existing zoning that we can make the tweaks here and there along the way. I think EDIC has, spoken with the city planner several times about looking at a complete overhaul of our zoning so that we could make it more inviting for encouraging folks to do developments, if you will, in all of these housing factions. So needless to say, EDIC strongly supports the adoption of the housing plan. Want to thank City Planner for acquiring the grant to do this, and thank Councillor Peak for bringing forward the amendments that he's bringing forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Jeff, do you have anything else before I start to take questions?
No.
Okay. Anyone on the council have any questions for any of the array of experts that are here today? Really? Councillor Zaret.
This is for Judy Barrett, and thank you for your presentation. And I did neglect to mention how impressed I was with the appendix with the potential plans for the developments on Main Street and over on I think it was Church and Irving. One potentially municipally owned plot that I didn't see, and I talked to the planner a little bit about this, was the parcel that's behind what we call Treehouse, but I think it's referred to as Whitebrook Circle, which has a few affordable units. And I'm wondering if that was looked at, but just not included in the report, or if there are reasons why that might not be an optimal site to consider affordable units.
I don't know that we looked at it, and I may need to turn to Jeff on this because we kind of work collaboratively, pardon me, I can't talk tonight, on what that list should be. So I think his greater familiarity with the sort of where the municipal sites are may be the better way to go. Jeff, I don't mean to bump this on you, but I think you maybe should be the one to answer this.
No, I think Councilor Zaret did, ask the question. There's a lot next to Treehouse Circle, and I think one of the reasons why is the exact criteria that goes into the plan is where would the city encourage the filing of a 40B permit? And I think there was not a level of comfort that we feel comfortable that that's where we would encourage a 40B permit at this time. I think we talked about it in committee, and it would be a great site to do an analysis of and do some public outreach. The other sites, the schools, we've talked a lot with the downtown plan, and then a lot of the other sites are either for sale. So there's an analysis of the Tasty Top parcel, and then the large parcel on Main Street going to Southampton. And then the other couple sites were already listed in the 2014 plan. So, or that are in the downtown 40R. So we wanted to be kind of conservative in where, because the statement is where would we encourage a 40B application? And I think we had to draw the line, but I think the further analysis of the Treehouse lot, amongst probably some others, would be good next steps. I believe that's in the actual plan as an action item too.
It is, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Zaret. Councillor Peak, I saw your hand earlier.
Sure. What I sort of want to make a remark about this that really addressed towards my fellow councilors. So if there's anybody else on the council who has questions for our consultant or anybody else, I would certainly be happy to have them go first.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? I will just jump in here. It's not really a question. It's more of the thing that caught my eye, Judy, and you can tell me if it rightly caught my eye, was the statistic I think that you had where our population by and large has remained fairly stable for the last 30 years, give or take. It hasn't really gone very far, but our household growth rate is pretty high compared to all the area and indeed the state, that we outpace the state. And as you said earlier, the household is the thing. Like that's the group of people who need places to live. And so if you have more households, you need more inventory. And so that struck me as kind of eye-opening, quite honestly.
This is one of the great lessons in planning. Whenever I start a planning project, one of the first things communities talk about is their population growth rate. And I listen patiently because I know everybody focuses on that. But once you're talking about housing, it's not about population anymore. It's about the households. It's what's the household formation rate? What kinds of households are they? How big are they? What's the sort of age mix of the householders? Yeah, that's really what the conversation needs to be about. And you're so right. Your household growth rate is very different from your more flat, somewhat declining, but basically flat population growth. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Tom.
President Coniff, do you mind if I share my screen?
I do not. Let me make you did I make you a co-host?
Looks like you did.
Oh, look at me.
Oh, no, it's a
He's
host.
not a co-host.
Okay, go ahead. You are now.
Okay, great. Okay. I wanted to bring to my colleagues' attention this document right here, which is the 2014 Housing Production Plan. And I wanted to bring it forward, and I'll try to do this without getting super mad because there's a lot of people here. We have, this is all laid out in a way, it's much less pretty than our current, this one that we're voting on tonight. So thank you everyone for making it such a well-designed and digestible document. But it has this really interesting format in the back 1/4 or so of it, where it has recommended actions. And then for each action, it has what they want us to do, who's responsible, and the resources that are needed. And for a lot of this, it has nothing to do with the city council. And I'm not going to comment on anything that doesn't have to do with the city council because there's all sorts of pressures and just tough realities that go into every job, and I don't know those jobs. I do know a little bit at this point about being a city councilor. So I want to scroll down to this part. Enable, this part C, enable more housing choice through regulatory action. So we start here with this suggestion, explore adopting an inclusionary zoning ordinance. Well, it's 7 years later, we don't have an inclusionary zoning ordinance. My understanding is that at some point in the past, Councillor Derby did submit a proposal for one and it was shot down. You'll see here that the resources needed are political capital, information, and a stakeholder. So let's move on to the next one. Revise the accessory dwelling unit ordinance to allow by right construction. So this is for accessory dwellings. Well, I submitted something quite like this this week because over the last 7 years, we haven't done it. Again, what did we need? Political capital. All right. Expand site plan approval designation for multifamily housing. Have we done it? Renew existing 15% multifamily affordable housing, yada, yada, yada. Well, okay. Have we done it? Adopt zoning that encourages affordable live work. I don't even believe that the words live work exist anywhere in our zoning. Now, our recommendations this time around are a little bit different. And I don't want to get bogged down in the conversation of whether these things were the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. Here's the reality. We as a council voted on this document that I'm showing you right now 7 years ago. I'm going to close this down so that I can just talk because I've shown you what this is. So 7 years, we didn't do any of it. And the part about this that troubles me is that this is a document, one of the reasons we're voting on this is we are transmitting this to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, saying that this is our plan. So when we're talking about this tonight and when we go to vote on this, just to be clear, I intend to vote on it. I think it's an amazing plan. I think they did a great job. I think it's really good. I think that my colleagues should honestly ask themselves, do you intend to make a good faith effort to work on this plan? Because I don't want to see another repeat of this, where we go and we tell the state that we have our plan to produce more affordable housing units, and then the planning department does what they do, and the mayor does what they do, and the council spends 7 years sitting on their hands. And that's, I mean, this is just what I'm worried about. If we truly don't have the political capital, if we don't have the political will to actually act in a comprehensive way to do this, then we should just say that. We should say, hey, we can't do this. Turns out this isn't something that we have the political will to act on, and you should just go and do whatever 40B stuff you're going to do because we're not going to do anything. We should just be honest about that if we're not going to do it. But I think we can, and I think we should, and I'll be voting on this, but I want to really challenge people to say, let's do what we can to not have a repeat of this, where the council looks at our checklist for the last 7 years and realizes that we have come up shorthanded. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. And the hands go up. Councillor Derby, then Rothschild, then Rist.
Thank you. And I want to thank Councilor Peak for that, kick in the butt. But it's true, we haven't done a lot with affordable housing in my tenure, which is a long time. But I will say that I have tried. I've been one of them, which was a buyout option for affordable housing, basically, which would go into a housing fund. If a project chose not to do any affordable housing, then they'd have to actually pay the city that would go into affordable housing fund. I was one of 2 votes. And that was one of the only city council meetings where someone came up to me afterwards and threatened to punch me in the face. So that was exciting. So, this is something that is important and something that we don't have a great track record. I will say that I do believe, though, that the item number 5, that we did do something in the last year in downtown business with work, live space in downtown business. I think we passed it. Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, but we allow people to live in their workspace in downtown business. I think we just passed that within the last maybe year. I don't know, but I just want to make sure that we're, that we don't miss the good things that we have done, because we did do that recently. Thanks.
Councillor Rothschild.
So I have a more of a process question. So when I'm looking at this, I got really excited, and I love action plans. I love, a roadmap here, but because of our open meeting laws, I don't know the best way as a group to say, why don't you work on this part? I'm going to work on this with this part, without emailing each other and it's a violation. Where can we as a group have that conversation so we can take, usually when I work collaboratively with a group, we take onus over certain things. How can we do that in this setting?
I think that would fall to, getting things certainly on the ordinance committee's docket. But, and I'm throwing this out there, not as anything I'm definitely going to propose, but while this has been going on, I'm wondering if we create an ad hoc committee that focuses just, and I know we talked about this, Tom, when we were thinking about reviewing ordinances, we were starting to talk about reviewing zoning, but that was really dense and a lot going on there. But I'm wondering if that might not be something we start to look at, that we do spin up an ad hoc committee that focuses on zoning. I know we said we were going to wait, but maybe this is the time to do it. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tom?
Only that I have a lot of faith in the ordinance committee to efficiently work on this stuff. I think that there's, I don't have an objection to that, but I do have a lot of faith in that committee as a committee member to handle that thing. And in terms of just familiarity with the actual process of a zoning amendment, which is pretty intricate, it's something I would certainly be open to discussing.
Yep, I think there are ways to get the housing production plan as an agenda topic, as an open agenda topic on the ordinance docket and to be reviewed, and maybe we limit it, I don't know, to the 6 or 7 recommendations. I'm just throwing things out there. I'm going to go to Councilor Rist because his hand was up, and then I want to go to the mayor after Councilor Rist.
Well, I want to thank everybody for the housing report. I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, need. Our needs have changed in the last 7 years, and one of the biggest things that's occurred is the value of property in Easthampton has skyrocketed, leading to affordability problems. The CPA has approached this, but only when a project's presented to us. So political will is the key to this, and I want to compliment Councilor Peak, because that's political will. He didn't talk about it. He sent us 2 amendments that address 2 very important topics on this very subject. So those ordinances are going to ordinance committee and they're going to be worked on. And political will means we as counselors, we attend planning board meetings, we attend ordinance meetings, and we try to get informed. I was only recently informed, because I'm lazy and I admit it, about accessory dwellings and how much they could be valuable to our city. If accessory dwellings are deregulated a lot, I see a domino effect where the mother-in-law gets moved into an accessory dwelling and out of an apartment in Easthampton, and that apartment becomes available. So you have all of these new apartments maybe that become available for people on different income levels to rent. And I just see all of this as something that requires all of us to have the kind of political will that Councilor Peak has, and that I wish I had, and I admit it. It takes a lot to be willing to do the work and to get the ordinance in front of us. And Councilor Derby, you're an example, and Councilor Zarrett, all of you. And I'm really optimistic that this housing report won't be put aside, because we have a very active council right now. And I applaud all of you, because you're going to try and get this done. And I see it coming right from Councilor Peak, and I know everybody else is going to try. So political will is the key. We can do something, because we're the end of the process. We're the legislative body that says yes to these zoning amendments. And I encourage the ordinance committee and the planning board to look at deregulation as a way to attract more affordable housing projects, to make it a lot easier for developers and individual homeowners to build accessory dwellings and everything else. Let's make this a lot easier to do. That's my comment, and I'm hoping it's heard by the planning board and the ordinance committee as we develop these ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rist. Mayor LaChapelle, if you had your hand up.
Thank you, President Coniff. As to the proposed or considered ad hoc committee from the City Council, I would urge the body to do that work in concert with EDIC and Affordable Housing Partnerships. They're 2 committees that have been working hard and long on these very issues. And I would just say, for whatever format, we have a lot of opportunity to build off of their expertise as well as their history in that. I won't speak for them, but maybe put out a gentle suggestion. I think either group would be open to being tasked with some part of the plan or consideration to help the council gather information as they see. The last comment I would have around the zoning, the plan, thank you to everybody who was involved. It's one a very interesting read and very well done, and certainly gave me a lot of perspective. That said, there are always ongoing conversations in the city with developers, current landowners, prospective landowners, planning commissions around these exact ordinances, projects. So, as going, it's always important to check into with Jeff Bagg, our planner, and our planning team to see there might already be something going on or a grant we're about to apply for and why. So those are my general comments, other than to thank everybody and for the work on the plan. Exciting stuff. And the community, like, and all the input. Wonderful.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselors, before I get to counselors there, I know the public, there's a bunch of people who have their hands up. We are going to get to you. We just want to kind of find out what the counselors have and what the planning board may have in terms of questions, but we will get to you, so don't worry about that. Counselor Zarek.
I want to thank Councilor Peak for what he had to say. First of all, that's the exact enthusiasm and can-do attitude that I was speaking to when I made my introduction, and I was trying to hold myself back and not do it too forcefully. And thank you, Councilor Peak, for bringing the fire. To kind of address what Councilor Rothschild was asking, and kind of address some of the other comments here. You know, I would say that I'm a little concerned about the formation of yet another ad hoc committee, and I do think that this discussion is well within the tasks of the ordinance committee. And I wanted to point to an item, and I might have mentioned this in my letter, but I don't remember. So one of the things I really liked in the 2014 plan compared to the 2020 plan is this awesome scheduled action in the back that grids out all of the recommendations and then creates priority levels if they'll result in SHI eligible units, and kind of creating a timeline for that. And one thing that I was considering doing, and you know, at the risk of open meeting law issues, I won't say too much, but what I'd likely to do is propose this as an item for a starting point for the ordinance committee to analyze the schedule of action. I think, as you said, President Coniff, to look over the items that are here, prioritize them, create a timeline, and as the mayor said, work with the other stakeholders, the planner, Ms. Tatro at EDIC, within some special meetings of ordinance to really flesh this out and figure out, okay, we know what we want to do, but when are we going to do it? And how does this all line up? And then identify some of the areas where, okay, is this language that we can create ourselves, or do we need any help with it? And so, you know, I'm really enthused and pleased by the fact that everyone here seems to be kind of picking up what we were putting down earlier, that this is we're being asked to take action, and I think people are expressing the desire to take action. We have to stop. We have to reduce all the barriers to living in the city. We need to make Easthampton a place that's welcoming and accessible and affordable. And the only way to do that is to get rid of some of these, you know, frankly, you know, outdated zoning regulations that keep people out of here and unable to afford or build here. We need to, you know, make multifamily units much easier to construct. We need to make duplexes much easier to construct. Accessory units shouldn't have to go through the rigmarole of getting approved upon sale. We want Easthampton, we want people to move into the city, not out of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zarek. Anyone else from the council and or the planning board? Tom, I think your hand is trying to go up, so why don't you, if you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't, my reactions button only has a clap your hand or thumbs up, so I wasn't sure which one I was going to give you. But this might be a question to Jeff and Judy. I understand in the report and with Councilor Peak's amendment recommendations that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that's obvious to us, of might be barriers to housing development that we can change in zoning. But I was under the impression, Judy and Jeff, that to really do it right, we needed some sort of level of expertise, like a Judy, that would come in and basically do a complete overhaul of our zoning from page 1 to page 354. And I know Judy's, she left that slide out, but I forget, Judy, how many pages was our zoning? A lot.
267 or something like that.
267 pages in our zoning regulations, and that far outpaces most other municipalities in the state. Um, we can find the low hanging fruit here and there, but I'm not so sure if we always know what it is we're looking for and might overlook it. And we might need that, sorry, Jeff, but we might need that grant that's out there to have that zoning overhaul that comes back with, here's the 50 things you can do as a community to remove these barriers, as opposed to the 5 or 6 or 10 that we might find as lay people, if you will, going through a zoning document.
You
Judy?
want to address
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the bulk in your zoning ordinance is information that doesn't even need to be there. Your zoning ordinance, like many that I've seen, tends to include both zoning, but also administrative regulations, things that really should be adopted at the planning board level or the ZBA level. You know, things like what the submission requirements are for a special permit, that doesn't belong in the zoning ordinance. All the zoning ordinance needs to say is that the planning board shall have authority to adopt rules and regulations to administer this section. Boom, done. So I think a lot of cleanup would help to take the bulk out of this ordinance and make it then a little bit easier to sort of see at a policy level where kind of the issues are. But, you know, I will tell you, I think that it's an ordinance that has a lot of voices in it. You can tell that over time it's been amended by different folks, which happens in every community. That also tends to create some confusion in the document. So, and I can guarantee you there's stuff in that ordinance you guys don't even know is there. And one of the great things I love to do when I work on zoning is to do a zoning or diagnostic. You just go through like a close reading exercise and you really go through the ordinance and you find all these little warts in it. And when you go back to people and say, these are like examples of inconsistencies in your ordinance, and they'll say, well, that's not in our bylaw or ordinance, and it is, but they don't use it because it hasn't triggered it. But someday something is going to. And if you don't go through that level of precision, the difficulty is you may write some really cool amendment to your ordinance to provide for more housing production. And you haven't caught the fact that what you just adopted conflicts with something else that people haven't seen. So the discipline, the intellectual discipline to sort of step back and say, we're going to get this thing cleaned up. So now when we add things to it, when we make amendments, it will be an easier document to amend. It will reduce the potential for inconsistency and frankly allow city boards to do their job, which is adopting administrative regulations. And the council doesn't need to do that. That can be done by the planning board. So I just think there are things like that, that if you do them, it will help you, it will give you a more nimble document to work with.
Thank you, Judy. I'm gonna let some members of the public ask some questions now. I know, Joe, your hand was the first one up, so if you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Sure,
or make
thanks.
your comment.
I just read through the proposed code changes, and I'm going to say I'm quite happy with them. They might actually allow me to put a unit on my property, which I wouldn't have been allowed to before because my house itself is so small that the prior limitation that an ADU not exceed 50% of the square footage of the existing structure made one a non-starter. I was wondering if there's any proposal to address thous.
I'm sorry, what was that last?
Thous, THOW, tiny homes on wheels. I know there's someone in the city right now who's been trying to live under the radar, and the Board of Health has been speaking with him. I'm not sure where the outcome of that is. And I have many neighbors that have campers, RVs parked in their yards year round.
I didn't personally see anything in the plan about that. Judy and or Jeff, has there been any discussion around that you're aware of?
There's been a lot of discussion that I'm aware of. There are some constraints that are outside of zoning. So there's state building code and health regulations that need to be resolved first, and then the zoning could come next. Working on zoning now, it seems like there's not a clear path all the way through.
I thought the state adopted building code appendix Q in January of last year to address some of these building code issues.
I mean, I think it's kind of a very specific question that's kind of outside of the realm of what we're kind of diving into tonight.
Okay.
But it's come up for sure.
Councilor Peak, did you have a comment, response?
Yeah, and my understanding, I looked into this after I had, well, actually, this is a little bit outside of the scope of the public hearing, but Joe, why don't you talk to me? Because I did look at Appendix Q, and my understanding is there's still some problems with electrical and plumbing codes or something. So, but like, yeah,
Well, it's the International Building Code. The state adopted it on January of 2020. And a lot of it was addressing things like headroom, because a lot of times a tiny house doesn't have, it's not going to meet the requirement for 7'6" ceilings and things like that. I'm not sure. I thought it fully addressed things like electrical code because it doesn't change the existing electrical code. You need to have.
my sense is that there are still problems in those codes, but
Yeah. And it may be more a case of the state needing to adopt some kind of secondary code for how such units are hooked up to existing structures, which might be a different thing. I don't know. But like I said, that's the international building code that's being adopted across Europe. So if the city feels like the state still needs to work out kinks in it, then I don't know how we proceed with that. Do we move forward with petitioning the state, or does it just
Yeah,
to try and drive this further, because the state doesn't necessarily have an incentive to address this.
Right.
It's more coming up at the community level because of residents within the communities that are trying to create more affordable housing.
Right. I think Joe, this since it's not directly addressed within the housing plan, I think if you deem that it's a worthy conversation, maybe you and Tom Peak can have a conversation and figure out if it's something that we need to bring forward or how we want to address it.
Okay.
But
it sounds like city council isn't opposed to the idea. It just hasn't addressed it yet.
I don't think all of us really are up to speed on it. So yeah. So
okay, fair enough.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
And next we have, although I don't think it's Madeline Austin. If you want to unmute, go ahead.
No, it is not Madeline Austin, it's Randall Austin. And, one of the comments, or one thing I haven't heard anyone talk about that to me is an element of affordable housing is I don't know if anyone has considered the city partnering with some of the local nonprofits like HAP Housing or Cambridge Credit Counseling to set up programs like a pre-purchase counseling or post-purchase counseling, because if we have lower income individuals that we want to set up for success, the counseling is a great help to let them know exactly what they're going to be in for all of the different elements of the housing process and things that they would need to consider. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Great, thank you. Next we have Kay Collins.
Hi, Councillor. Councillor Coniff, is it okay to just add a comment rather than a question at this point? I joined the meeting a little bit late. I don't want to go.
Absolutely, yep.
Perfect, thank you. I just wanted to speak in favor of Councillor Peak's initiative. I think working in the community, one of the things I've heard from a lot of people is the fear of being priced out of Easthampton. I have some friends who've been shopping for houses in Easthampton in the past couple of years and gotten outbid pretty regularly by people just walking in and paying cash. So I think having some initiatives for affordable housing, particularly the accessory home option. Easthampton is a wonderful community that I've been privileged to be part of for 10 years, and part of the richness of the community comes from intergenerational and different income levels and artists that are looking to have homes here. And I'm watching people be priced out and listening to the fear of people who are aging, want to age in place in Easthampton and are not able to afford it. So I think that accessory apartments are something that are going to add to the ability for people to be able to stay in the community and add an accessory apartment either to supplement their income or to move into a smaller apartment and rent out or sell their main home. So I just wanted to speak out highly in favor of not allowing Easthampton to be gentrified to the point that we lose the richness and diversity of the community.
Thank you, Kay. Next, I think we have Sarah Amoroso.
Hi. I live on Winter Street, which is pretty close to the center of Easthampton, right behind the city hall that nobody goes in anymore. And among my neighbors is Jackie Brusso Pereira on the Affordable Housing Partnership. And our neighborhood is a really interesting one because I live in a single family house and so do some of my neighbors, but I also have duplexes and condos and rental units all in this very few streets, half a dozen streets. And it works really well. And what I was concerned about listening to that presentation, which I thought was thoughtful and interesting, was that one of the goals was stated to preserve the predominantly single family character of Easthampton, but I don't see how that fits with the growth in non-family households. And I don't think that we're going to end up like the house in Up, right, where there's like one guy surrounded by skyscrapers and he has to escape by balloon, right? But I feel like our position on regulation should be that it's here to keep us safe, right? It's here to make sure that we don't put like a pork rendering plant in our backyard, but it's not to keep different kinds of people apart. It's not to suddenly decide that renters are a different class of people than owners and to say we can't have these people together. And I would encourage you to think of the way that we want to build value in our community is through vibrancy and through growth, and not through the size of whoever's lawn, right? Like, so that's sort of my general point, is that we need to look forward to the kind of future that we want to have, to the kind of needs that we're going to have, and frankly to the kind of changes that we're going to see. And like, when you look at parking, are we going to have as many cars? I don't think we should. I don't think we're going to be able to, so we need a forward-looking approach on this. And I won't talk anymore and take up more of your time. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Sarah. Judy, I didn't actually read that in the plan, what Sarah was talking about. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think the point was not, what we were trying to say in the plan is you have opportunities to sort of concentrate development around your downtown area. One of the things we were asked to do in this project was to pay close attention to sort of the framework of that plan and the recommendations of it, and to build on those. So really what we're saying is, if you're going to take kind of a smart growth approach, you want to think about sort of intensifying and building on the areas where you already have development, and not necessarily, upend all the sort of outlying parts of town where you still have open space. And, if you can, you build on what you have and not necessarily destroy the open space fabric you have left. So Peter Flinker and I had many conversations about this very issue, because we're not trying to suggest that that the city should be a single family city.
Right. Yeah. I just think that open space is sort of a different thing than saying single family character. I think that's sort of, I don't know, maybe in the planning, but it doesn't read that way to me. But thank you for explaining that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I see Louise Jacob has her hand up. Louise?
Unmuting. Hi. I've got another question for Judy that seems to be kind of, sorry, I can't even see her in this flood of faces. It's weird.
It's hard.
Hi. And it kind of is related to this, to what was just raised about character, single family, but it's a little bit different because we've got a few, basically my question is about transportation, transit. Usually that's a very big part of affordable low-income housing. This is the first place I've lived that has kind of a car culture, and it's almost a survival thing. And here we're talking one hand on single family character, and then people are saying, I keep thinking, friends I've had, people are often renters are a different class than owners, and it's very simply, it's a question of access to transport. And I've had that, my friends, my life. And here we're talking about, on the one hand, or you were talking, Judy, about a historic parking requirement per unit and saying that that inhibits it. But I'd like to say, have you correlate? It's a question, honestly, because I don't know what you do here. There's no public transport. You can't get to work. You absolutely can't get your kids to daycare and then get to work. And if you're going to have artists, and that is beyond the probably power or resources of Easthampton to answer. But having raised that as a huge problem that I know, is there any kind of correlation in the work you've done? Because if you're going to have housing that's going to have 3 unrelated people, if you don't have your mother-in-law in the backyard, could it be me? You have 2 people who are unrelated and they're artists or something, and they can't even use street parking because we have parking ban. Okay, I think you see where I'm going. I'm just asking if there's any correlation in your work that I missed between those 2 problems.
No, I think what we're saying is that the city's parking regulations today are high, and they don't need to be as high as they are. And I think you need to look at that as a potential, among many other things, impediment to multifamily development. I would not also, any of you, lose sight of the fact that one of the zoning recommendations we made was to get rid of single family only districts and to provide for 2-family dwellings citywide. So I think the issue is just how much density do you put where? And if you have, an established kind of center, you have established neighborhoods, from a smart growth perspective, that's where you want to concentrate development. If people don't have a car, you don't want them having to have a car just to go to the store and get a gallon of milk. So really, we all have to be thinking about how do we get cars off the road to the extent that we can. There's a bigger conversation here about climate change and sustainability, and encouraging a lot of parking conflicts with that. So I would just encourage you to all think about that as well.
Great. Jeff Bagg?
Did I unmute? Hold on.
You did.
Okay, sorry. I am lost in the screen world too. I just wanted to say, I think I was going to put up the slide, and I don't know if it's necessary, but I think the phraseology that Ms. Amorosa mentioned, it's getting lost in translation, because what it actually says is that our best bet is to focus and encourage more development of multifamily downtown in the downtown neighborhoods, and discourage it in those sort of more single family neighborhoods. So we don't want to necessarily stop any development on the outskirts, but we want to encourage people to move closer, and that's where we want a lot of multifamily, because I think, as Ms. Jacobs said, that's where we will have sidewalks and it'll be closer to goods and services. Even in the highway business district, that's the idea, is that we can get close to those, rather than, areas like, Loudville Road, there can be multifamily out there, but it's not the best location. There's not a sidewalk in sight where someone could walk into town, plus it's really far. So that's the idea of the single family neighborhoods, was just to say that those are on the periphery, and it's just not the best place for a lot of multifamily housing, because then you definitely need a car. So I think it was the way that the goal got written. I mean, it was a kind of a string of comments all together, which is focus downtown and kind of don't encourage the multifamily in the outskirts. So that was my take on that.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Jeff. That helps. Anyone else have any comments? Anyone else want to raise your hand?
Madam President.
I can barely hear. Who was that?
Was
Harry.
Dan not
Harry.
speaking?
Yep, Harry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Easthampton is a bedroom community. If you eliminate all the cars, how are people going to go back and forth to work? It makes absolutely no sense. You get out there on Hoyoke Street and watch the cars that go over that mountain and come back every day. This is a bedroom community. That's what it is. The thing if you're going to try to eliminate cars makes absolutely zero sense to me.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Anyone else?
Salem has his hand up.
Oh, hi, Salem.
Hi. So I just want to, I think this kind of dovetails in with Tom's point, but, as we move forward, with these, kind of deeper dive into the ordinance and to the issues around multifamily, there is a good chance that we could potentially find some, it's not represented here today, but there is a good chance that we could find some potential, adversity as we move forward. And I just want to point to last term as we looked at a really creative, I thought it was a really creative way to get, some short-term rental in Easthampton behind the old Touchstone Farm. That literally was a good idea. It was something that could really kind of, make some inroads to solving some of the problems that we're talking about. And it failed because we yielded to the neighbors' concerns, which were basically not in my backyard. So I just want to put that out there that this, we're going to have a little gumption as we go through this because it's not going to be easy. And so, and I think that it sounds like we have the will to do this, but, I've been on some votes that did not go my way as it related to this stuff more than a few times. So, get ready. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, so Councillor Rothschild and then Tom Brown.
This is just a quick comment, but what Salem was saying, that underscores the need for us to really reach out to CHAPA. It seems like to really build that community support. So I'll just say that in the open forum, that's something I'm interested in working on, and I will.
Thanks. Tom, did you have another comment? Tom Brown?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Councillor Derby was saying, I couldn't agree more. I think Judy and I and Jeff and EDIC have even spoken about this, that we talk about all of these great improvements we can make, infilling two-family homes in single-family home districts, downtown, what have you. But watch out and hold on for the ride, because you know what happens with the folks around that development. And I can just point to, the cannabis project on Northampton Street. I can point to Dunkin' Donuts. I can point to the Loudville Road development. And those are probably, I don't know the details of all of those projects, but they all sounded pretty good and sounded like new growth to Easthampton, sounded like new tax revenue to Easthampton. But the problem is the folks that are opposed are the ones that tend to show up and be the loudest voice. And we've talked about this on EDIC. We, as our membership, have to do a better job of showing up at these meetings to get across the positive side of that. Why we're in favor of this project or that project. But Councillor Derby hit the nail on the head. And I think Councillor Peak said the same thing. This won't be easy. Hold on for the ride.
Thanks, Tom. All right. I don't think I'm seeing any more hands.
You have two hands up, ma'am.
Hang on. Calm down, everybody. Carl Woodruff.
Hi, thank you. This is Carl Woodruff, 30 Pine Street. I'm also known a member at Oxbow Design Build here in Easthampton. And I just wanted to comment briefly on the conversation about single family character versus multifamily character, and especially how it pertains to affordability, which seems like is really the question at hand here. And I just want to caution against creating a clear distinction between multifamily and other types of affordable housing, because I think that trying to encourage the development of multifamily is certainly very important and is going to go a long way towards increasing affordability. But it's not the silver bullet, and there isn't a silver bullet, and that really being able to increase other types of densification on a smaller scale, such as two-family developments, accessory dwelling units. I would love to see a three-family option at some point. I think that while it's a smaller change project by project, I think that it really contributes to a larger change as a community. And it also avoids what I think is a real pitfall of a lot of large multifamily projects, which is this warehousing effect of trying to really move all people of a certain income into one area, which I'm not hearing as the intent from anybody here, but I'm also not hearing that acknowledged as a concern about trying to address affordability in a way that doesn't raise other issues, such as increasing negative stereotypes or creating a large project that ends up being somewhat unsuccessful because it changes the character drastically in one area, and people point at that as a failure. So You know, I appreciate that Sarah brought this up a little bit and some of the responses here, and I really you know, want to voice my support in general for the affordability plan put together in Judy's presentation. I really appreciate all that, and also just want to caution against having that strong distinction between single family versus multifamily and downtown versus, you know, the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Jackie Brousseau Pereira.
Hi, folks. Jackie Brousseau Pereira, Garfield Avenue here in Easthampton. I'm a very long time member of the Easthampton Fair and Affordable Housing Partnership. You have no idea how exciting it is for us to be hearing this plan, listening to all the support from city councilors and EDIC and other people. It's like a dream come true. So thank you all for your super hard work on this. I want to just come back to Salem's point about the challenges that we face as we try as a community to stand up for affordable housing development and projects that happen. You know, the NIMBY thing is definitely real. There's a lot of folks who say they want affordable housing, but then when it pops up in their backyard, they really don't want it there. And so to that end, you know, I don't want to go too far down that road. We've all potentially understood that that is a real thing that happens. But one of the things that the Easthampton Housing Partnership's been working on over the past several years is really trying to build a cadre of people that we can call on to come to those meetings and really speak to why it's important to have housing for everyone in our community. And the fact that the market just doesn't build stuff that's for folks who live at the lower income levels, you know? So I'm really excited about this plan. I definitely support it. Judy, I love listening to you because you're such a great educator. So thank you so much for your work on this. I'm glad this is recorded. I hope we post it so that people can really just understand what affordable housing is and who lives in it. And that's like, you know, 60% of our population is at or below the 80% of the area median income. And that's what this kind of affordable housing, that's what we're talking about. So I think that's all I want to say, but do know that the Housing Partnership has been, first of all, we've been growing, we've been adding members, which is amazing. And we also have been building a team of folks who we can line up to bring to those meetings to speak in favor of affordable housing. So thanks for letting me put my 2 cents in.
Thanks, Jackie. Anything else from anyone, public or the council or the planning board? Okay. So at this point, the takeaway from this is for the city council to essentially, I think we said this at the top, essentially advocate and approve this plan as it exists. We know that there's a lot that needs to be worked on and changed, but our goal here tonight is to go ahead and have a vote on our approval and advocacy for this plan. So I don't know if Councilor Zaret, are you the one who will be making the motion for us to do that, or Jeff, do you have?
Just insert the word adopt.
Adopt.
In addition to the language you already
Even
had.
if we don't approve it, we're adopting it.
Okay.
It's not that we're approving it, we're adopting it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just make sure the word adopt is in there, and that's what the state wants to hear, that the city council and the planning board will have to make the similar motion to adopt it.
Okay, do we need to do it in any particular order? Does the planning board have to go first? Nope.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Councilor Zaret, do you have, oh, I'm sorry, hang on 1 second, Councilor Zaret. James Arvis.
I'm sorry, I was debating whether or not to throw this in. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I absolutely support this. I'm definitely going to vote for this. It's really important. You've all said this over and over, so I won't belabor it, how important it is. But there was one piece in here that caused me some concern. I felt you really threw the kitchen sink at this. We've been through processes on the planning board struggling to find ways to incentivize 40B, 40R. There was one piece in here that I think belongs in here and is part of the discussion that's essential, but I just want to call it out a little bit so that when the time comes that we look at the nitty gritty of this, that we think about how key it is. And on page 40, I think it's 48 here, 47 actually, the last paragraph about the Mill Industrial District and how lax or relaxed our zoning is of that section. You know, that's a key linchpin to our community. It was pivotal in our arts renaissance. You know, I've been a part of that for a long time, and I know how important it is and what a commitment the developers for those buildings have put in, a lifelong commitment to our community. I want to make sure that when we look for this all important, you know, opportunities to be created from this plan, that we be really careful about what we do in that particular piece, not to make it harder for these developers to, you know, to maintain the kinds of communities they have there. Again, I think it belongs there. The discussion should happen. Everything should be on the table. That's how important this is. But I think it's also important to make sure that and point out the places where things are tricky. And if we mess with it too much, we could have outcomes we don't want. Just want to toss that in.
Thanks, James. Okay. So Councillor Zaret, do you want to move forward?
Yes, I'd be pleased to. So I prepared a motion, and I hopefully this language is acceptable. Certainly can entertain any changes. I'd like to make a motion to move and adopt the 2020 Housing Production Plan and send to the Department of Housing and Community Development for review.
Second.
So we have several seconds. Motion and a second to adopt the housing production plan and allow the mayor to also approve that and move it to the DHCD, I believe. Any further discussion? All right, Barbara.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
I have the political will to say yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Motion passes. Well done, everyone. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody who spoke this evening. I feel a little smarter than I did a couple of hours ago, which is always a good goal coming out of City Council. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now I think the planning board has to do their thing.
I motion
James
to,
Irvin.
yeah, I motion to approve the City of Easthampton Housing Production Plan for 2021 through 2026.
The word adopt has to be in there. Adopt.
Thank you.
I'll second the amended motion.
All right, to adopt and approve the housing production plan. James.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Wonderful. Planning board has also adopted it. Thank you very much, everyone. Well done.
Well,
All right.
Madam President, move the public hearings be closed.
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearings. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. So we'll continue to move on with our agenda. Before I do, does anybody need a break?
I was about to ask if we could get one.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Jesse, can we? Madam President, I think they have to adjourn.
Yeah, can we just adjourn our
Oh,
hearing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead.
No
Motion
problem.
to planning board.
Seconded.
All right, motion to adjourn. James.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sorry about that,
everybody, for
Jesse.
sticking it out. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Okay, we'll be in a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Nice job, Tom. Tom Peak.
Thank you. Thanks, Stan.
Let me know when those ordinances will come up on committee.
Oh yeah, sure thing. I will.
Girl Scout cookie break.
I got the
Not sharing.
s'mores cookies. Those are good.
I haven't picked mine up yet because normally my normally my boss is the one hawking them, but since the office is closed, I haven't seen him in almost a year. So I'm sure there's someone local I can go to.
Yeah, they've been out both, I think, at the Dollar Store Plaza and Tasty Top. So definitely keep your-
Saturdays, I think.
Saturdays?
Yep.
Great. I'll stock up.
So we're waiting for Barbara and JP. Oh, there's Barbara.
I'm here.
Is Erica here? I don't think Erica's back.
No, I was just, I
here.
could just see her picture and I
Yeah,
just
she's
scanned
here.
across.
I'm here. I'll come back
Okay.
on.
All right.
Eating a granola bar.
I think it's been 5 minutes. Give it one more minute and then we will reconvene.
Waiting on JP, I think.
Yes. As soon as he gets back, we'll start. There he is. Okay. All right, we are back. So we will now continue on with the agenda. Under communication from elected official boards and committees, we still had another item around a request to authorize the mayor to execute a revised agreement with One Ferry Street. This is around the easements. And we're going to move this particular issue to property. But the general gist is that about a year, no, September, no, I'm sorry, over a year ago, I think, we as a city council approved some easements for the One Ferry Street project prior to it having really made a lot of progress. And in the interim, it has been discovered that some of those easements need to be modified and changed. And I know, Jeff, you've gone on camera, but we're not going to really talk about it too much. We're just going to kind of give the introductory, and those easements need to be reviewed and reapproved by the city council. So we will move that whole discussion to the property committee. And Owen, if you'd like to make a motion to go ahead and do that, then we will move that particular item of business.
Thank you, President Coniff. I make a motion to move the item requesting to authorize the mayor to execute the revised agreements for the easements at the One Ferry Street project to the property committee.
Second.
Motion second to move the revision of the easements for the One Ferry Street project to the property committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Trustee Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Is there anyone else who has anything for communications from elected officials, boards and committees before we move on? I saw Omar and then we will do Dan Risk. So first Omar.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to make an announcement. The Majors Group is having two community listening sessions. One is going to be tomorrow at 6 to 8, and the other one is going to be the 24th between 6 to 8 p.m. You have to register. You can go through the Easthampton webpage, or you can go to Easthampton City Facebook page. You can go there to register. They have the link there to do it. Please do it, because I think it's really important for the community to talk and this group to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. I was actually going to say the same thing, and I want to direct people, I'll just piggyback onto that, direct people over to easthamptonmedia.org to get additional information on that. The topic tomorrow night will be, what does safety mean in Easthampton today? And on the 24th, the topic will be the future of policing and community safety in Easthampton. Critically topical items there, and I do encourage everyone to go and listen and or participate. Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Risk.
Just wanted to ask, Madam President, did you want to do that charter motion now, or do you have another time to do it?
I was going to do it in the next iteration after all the committees had their say. But if we're done with that, then yes, we can move on to that. So the next item is, again, this is more housekeeping. So about 6 or 7 months ago in September, we made a motion and we approved that the city charter amendments and changes would be sent to the legislature in the state. The wording of the motion was not completely thorough, so we have to redo the motion. Dan Riss, do you have any background you'd like to add to that?
Only that normally when we send it to the state in the past, hasn't been as extensive as this, and with COVID and everything, we normally would send legislative language to the state. That language being what they would adopt in legislative form. Fortunately, we did get the draft to the state, but it wasn't in the form that they could act on. And thank God for Barbara, she put it in legislative form, sent it off to Representative Carey, and he presented it to the House Council, and they've looked at it finally, and they had only minor amendments, except they said, wait, this hasn't been approved. And I'm not quite sure what they mean, but apparently we have to approve a legislative language form, which you all received, I believe, today, and it is the same thing, only in legislative language. And I, again, thank Barbara for that. So there's a motion, I believe Councilor Peak can make it if that's appropriate, Councilor, Madam President.
Yes, please. Tom, if you would be so kind.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I move that the City Council vote to petition the General Court to enact special legislation amending the city's home rule charter as recommended by a vote of the City Council on September 16th, 2020, and that the petition be forwarded to State Representative Daniel Carey for filing on behalf of the City of Easthampton.
Second.
Motion is second to petition the General Court to enact special legislation regarding our home rule charter. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood. Erica Flood,
Abstain.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Do you want me to vote?
Oh,
I skipped you?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it pass anyway.
Okay,
But I say yes.
all right.
motion passes. All right, thank you, Counselor Peak, Counselor Rist. Anything else under correspondence or announcements from the Vice President?
No, Madam President, thank you.
Okay. Mayor, do you have any communications that you would like to make at this time?
Yes, just some brief ones. One, thank you to members of the City Council who mentioned that our first community outreach meeting is tomorrow. I appreciate that. And then there's another one next Wednesday, and you can sign up on the website. If you go to our landing page and to the left-hand side, there's a blue link. It's like 1 or 2 down. Click on that and you can register. If anyone would like to attend and cannot register or have access to the internet, they can call my office at 413-529-1470 and we'll register for you over the phone. Also, rental assistance, our program has started, and I want to remind residents that the application process is by phone. You call Community Action Pioneer Valley at 413-475-1570. And I'll say that one more time, 413-475-150. Wayfinders in Springfield, wayfinders.org also has additional information around rental and mortgage assistance. The last thing I wanted to do quickly, there've been a lot of questions, a vaccine update. Especially given yesterday's announcement from Secretary Sutters. So starting tomorrow, if you 65 or older, you can make an appointment to get a vaccination. Also, folks who are under 65 who have a comorbid condition, and those are listed on the website, or you can call your primary care physician and they can instruct you if you meet basically having another medical complication or a condition that you may be able to get the vaccine in this second phase. So the best way to get an appointment is to go online to VaxFinder, and that's VaxFinder. Let me start again. VaxFinder. VaxFinder.mass.gov. And there will literally be a map, and you put in your zip code and it'll tell you where you can go to get it. You can also call 211. Of course, you can call the Council on Aging, 413-527-6151, or our health department, 413-529-1430. The one thing I can't say, or one word I can't say enough, is patience. There are now 1 million more people in our state that are available for vaccination, and the system is going along smoothly, but is definitely busy. Right now, the state is saying that it could take a month for these 1 million people to get an appointment, because as we're right now, the number of vaccine doses are not going up as fast as the number of people that can in the phases. This does not mean we're running out of vaccine. This is not meaning that you are being ignored. We are just asking for patience. While the system is working, the media is certainly having some play with it. But as the system, we've never done this before. The system's working. They are changing it every day to make places like the Eastfield Mall more consistent, more amenable to the folks who are going there, and hasten the process as much as possible. We'll be seeing new vaccine protocols come up in the next week or so, and the public public health departments are meeting with the governor's team on Friday morning. So expect more info. But again, if you're looking to make an appointment, vaxfinder.mass.gov or 211 are the best ways to get yourself an appointment. Every Thursday morning, as we get more doses and more locations online, every Thursday morning, more appointments will be added to that system. So if you aren't able to get one tomorrow and are feeling like you really needed one, or you don't know what's going on, or you can't get one over the weekend, no, every Thursday morning more are coming on. Call 211 vaxfinder.mass.gov. And thank you very much, Madam President.
Mayor, I just have a point of clarification on the website VaxFinder. Is it vaxfinder.ma or mass.gov?
Oh, I'm sorry, .mass.
Okay, thank you.
If you go to mass.gov, right, there's a banner that will say all COVID-19. I mean, that's the easiest one. VaxFinder brings you right to the map.
Great, thank you. Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. I have a question. Can you please repeat again the number for the rental assistant? And before you repeat it, you say the people have to call. So
Yes.
my question is, if anyone who didn't speak the language, they're allowed to leave the message or speak to someone in another language?
Yes.
Okay. And if Madam President, let me repeat the number in Spanish, if that's possible.
Please.
After the mayor say it.
Can you just repeat it, Mayor?
Yeah, so it's Community Action Pioneer Valley, 413-475-1570.
Great, thank you.
Can I repeat that in Spanish,
please? Yep.
Para aquel que necesite ayuda con renta en Easthampton, tenemos un programa de ayuda para la renta. El número de teléfono que se puede comunicar es 413-475-1570. El número de nuevo es 413-475-1570. Puede dejar su mensaje en español y lo atenderá. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez.
Madam President, if I could just add, the flyer for rental assistance is also in Spanish. And we'll repost that on the city webpage as well as Facebook, and encourage you all to share it out in both languages.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I saw Councilor Zaret, and then we'll go to Councilor Rist.
Great. Quickly, just a statement, Mayor. Thank you for giving the information on the vaccine and sharing the transparency from the state down in terms of why we are where we are. And I'm thankful that it sounds like on the federal level, we're getting a lot more doses in. So I'm sure that will trickle down to the states so we can get through this phase and vaccinate our next round, which includes our educators. But I had a question quickly about rental assistance. I had a couple residents reach out to me, and they were mostly interested in the mechanics in terms of, are the payments made directly to the landlords, or do they go to the renters and then the renters turn around and pay their landlords? Do you know how that works?
They go to the landlord.
That's what I figured. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. And Councilor Rist.
I just want to say on the rental assistance, I do partake in social media. I don't respond as eloquently as Councilor Peak does, but I saw a comment from a couple people that was negative. We shouldn't be spending our taxpayer dollars on rental assistance. But the overwhelming response to that comment by the residents of Easthampton was incredibly positive, telling people that it is a very good thing we're doing. We're keeping people from becoming homeless. So I want to say I believe the public is overwhelmingly supporting us in this endeavor. So you may, councilors, get some negative feedback from some people, but they're going to be a very low minority in the community. And I thank the mayor for advertising this as much as she's doing.
Anyone else before we let the mayor have dinner? Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to do reports of standing committees, but I would like to just change the order of that because we have someone who's been kind of hanging in there for the last few hours. And I know we need to kind of get moving on that. So I'm going to move appointments to be first, and then we'll go from there. So Councilor Rothschild, if you want to work on your agenda and let us know what's up.
I do, thank you. I'm just gonna quickly, before we move into our main attraction, is I want to move, I move to move the following two mayoral appointments to the Appointments Committee. Louise Jacobs to the Council on Aging with a term expiration 12/31/2022, and Matthew Wow to Zoning Board of Appeals with a term expiration 12/31/2023.
Second.
Motion is second to move two mayoral appointments to the Appointment Committee. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Ed Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Okay,
And
motion passes.
Thank you. And our regular committee hasn't met since the last meeting, but our next meeting is going to be on February 25th at 3:30.
3:30?
3:30, avoiding all the other Zooms.
Good idea. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a candidate here tonight, and he got a good taste of our community, and he's still here, so that's a good sign. I'm pleased to report that we unanimously agreed in our ad hoc committee that we have an excellent candidate to recommend for the principal assessor position. I'm going to read my letter for the benefit of the public, but just the main bullet points before I read it are that he has experience and strong knowledge of the law. He's worked in West Springfield and smaller communities, so he has experience with industrial, commercial, and personal property, and knows Mass General Law really very, very well. He has an approach that we were impressed with. It's very holistic. He works with other people across departments. He's gone out into presentations to senior centers to talk about abatements. He's proactive. He enjoys presentations as well. He enjoys giving presentations. This is Randall Austin. He's here with us. He goes by Randy. Also, something that we were really impressed with that I didn't put in my letter is he has a background in counseling, and he brought that issue up tonight with our discussion earlier. And that really helps with the interpersonal interfacing that an assessor needs to do, whether it's educating the public or it's, dealing with people that where you need to deal with people who aren't happy about their assessment or their abatement was, or their exemption was denied. So we found that he has a very nice mannerism about him and a way, and people skills at explaining things and diffusing situations. So anyways, I'm just going to read my letter for the public. It kind of encapsulates everything that our committee members felt. Dear esteemed colleagues of the City Council, the ad hoc committee organized for the purpose of recommending a candidate for the principal assessor position has concluded our work. We are pleased to recommend that Randall Austin, Randy, be appointed as the new principal assessor for the City of Easthampton. Our candidate choice was unanimous. Randall Austin brings a breadth of experience, having worked as an assessor in varied communities, most recently Lenox, and in the past West Springfield, Dalton, and Montgomery. He has experience with a range of property types, exemptions, and relies heavily on statistics and data in carrying out his responsibilities. Mr. Austin has a strong network of peers across the state and does not hesitate to utilize them as a resource when a situation calls for additional knowledge and experience. We were very impressed with his holistic approach as he expressed the importance of working with other departments across the city. He also described his proactive approach of doing outreach to the senior center to educate residents about the different exemptions available. He is very confident with public presentations and enjoys sharing information with different stakeholders. Lastly, Mr. Austin described difficult interactions with residents and city officials where he demonstrated his empathy, interpersonal skills, and strong moral compass. As a committee, we feel confident that Randall Austin will be an asset to the City of Easthampton. And yes, so we're happy that he's here. And that's it. I'll turn it over.
Does anybody have any questions for either Lindsay as the chair of the search committee or the recommendation committee, or Randy as a candidate? Councilor Kwasinski.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to say that as a member of the appointments committee, I believe Mr. Austin presented himself so very well that indeed having a unanimous recommendation to the council was our great pleasure. I don't know if you had a chance to read Councilor Rothschild's summarization of the interview, Randall, but I hope you weren't too embarrassed. It was really an astounding interview. You nailed it. And we really look forward to having you be with us and with the members of this community. I think you're going to fit in very nicely, should the councilors agree.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's also good to get to know the counselors through the process. It took a while for us to get here. But, you know, you know, coming to this community, I also want to be familiar with all the people that are on the council, and it gave me a great opportunity to see how you all work together. And, you know, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to being part of the community.
Thank you, Randy. Councilor Rist?
Just want to echo what both Councilors Rothschild and Councilor Krasinski said. I've been on the council forever. Randy, I've been on the council for 26 years, and I've interviewed many and dealt with many assessors, principal assessors. And I can tell you safely that you are one of the strongest candidates we've ever had. And your empathy and your concern for taxpayers, both to give them information and to try to help them through when they have a serious question about their taxes and how high they are. That empathy to me is the greatest attribute that you've demonstrated for customer service. And I think that will give our assessor's office a leg up on moving forward when we have to deal with the unfortunate need to have revenue for our city. So thank you so much for applying, and I wish you good luck.
Thanks. I hope I haven't set the bar too high for myself. But I'm going to do my best to be an asset to the community.
I would, if it's okay, I would, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Randy, but if you could just give us maybe 2 minutes of kind of the summary view of you and why this position is of interest to you.
A summary of me. Well,
within the context of being an assessor.
So within the context of being an assessor, you know, I started as an assessor in my small community of Montgomery, and it was more of a, you know, the person that I purchased the house from, they had an unspoken law or rule in Montgomery that you couldn't leave the board until you found your replacement. So when I purchased the home, the homeowner who was part of the Board of Assessors kind of brought me on, and I thought, well, you know, I want to be involved in this new community that I've just moved into. And, you know, over the years, I had a different career and continued to do the schooling, even though, because I had been there for a while and had, you know, a lot of vacation time. And so I used that to kind of become more and more familiar with assessing. And then when I got to the point in 2011 where I was laid off from my longtime career, I was able to make the change over to full-time and was nearly at the point where I had gotten my certification with the state as an MAAM Massachusetts accredited assessor. And so I have made that shift and now have a new career in assessing. And I've been working on it and networking as Lindsay said, you know, I have many people that I've networked with, and I know the assessors from many of the communities, and many of them I've assisted in any way that I could, and have a pretty good rapport with them. So I feel very confident about my ability to handle any situation because I have so many peers that I know that I can call on to get the answer to a question if it's something that I haven't dealt with yet.
And what's your interest in Easthampton?
In Easthampton, well, you know, working in Lenox has been nice, but it's a 37-mile commute one way. And so I went there to sort of, you know, to change gears a little bit from the town of West Springfield. But, you know, it's nice to get back to somewhere where I'm a little bit more local and sort of understand a little bit better what's going on. And it was a learning curve when I first went to the town of Lenox in the Berkshires. And, you know, the atmosphere there is, you know, much different than what I had dealt with. And I didn't get it at first, But eventually, I got enough experience that I could see exactly what was going on and understand the attraction and some of the different things and historical. It's a very historical town, the town of Lenox. And so, I went through and learned the community and hopefully I'm going to be able to do the same thing here in Easthampton, a little bit more familiar with what's going on here in this neck of the woods. So I guess there you have it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Austin? Okay, you got off easy, Randy. I'll leave it up to Lindsay now to make the motion.
Oh my gosh, the motion. Okay, I make a motion to, do we appoint him or do we recommend? Yeah, I make a motion to appoint Randall Austin as the principal assessor in Easthampton with a term expiration, Barb.
February 17th, 24. Three
February
years today.
3 years from today, February 17th, 2024.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second to approve the appointment of Randall Austin as the principal assessor for Easthampton. Any further discussion? Barbara.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Mar Gomez,
Aye.
AP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lindsay, for slogging through the executive meetings that you had, and thank you, Mr. Austin, for coming out on top.
And congratulations. We're happy to have you here in Easthampton. Welcome.
All right.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with all of you. I'm very much a team player. So if there's anything, I'm very good with statistical data. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact me and I'll do whatever I can to help out.
Thank you.
Great,
That sounds good. We love statistics here. Thank you very much. Lindsay, does that conclude?
That concludes.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go back to the top with finance, although we may not have anything to report. We're not having a meeting. We have completed the public hearing. Oh, did you want to say it? I'm sorry. I thought you were going to. Go ahead.
I didn't want to leave until after the appointment
Okay.
of the
Go ahead,
assessor.
Councilor Riss.
No, we have no report. We have nothing before us, so we will not have a meeting on the 24th. So our next meeting will be determined by the next agenda packet. And I must add, Madam President, I must ask at this time that you excuse me for the meeting. I've had a rough day and I am losing it right now. So
Yes,
thank
you are
you
excused.
all. I have to go to bed.
Thank you,
See you
Councilor
guys
Riss.
later. Thank you.
All right. Public safety, Councilor Gomez, I don't believe there's any report. Appointments we've already done. Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
I was charging my mouse, so it took me a little while. Thank you. So ordinance has been kind of busy, actually. So we met on February 10th to discuss Indigenous Peoples Day. And then I believe at the last meeting that was a public hearing was set for that.
Yes.
And so that's going to be exciting as that comes up. We met last night with the planning board in a joint public hearing where we discussed the solar ordinance that's before us. And, it was a really good discussion, really robust, and it looks like we've created more work for ourselves in the process. So that's always exciting as well. As we can delve deeper into our zoning and try to fix things that are awry. And so we're going to be, and probably within the next month, bringing something forward to take a look at the total solar zoning. And in that spirit, we continued our public hearing from last night to April 13th with the planning board in hopes that we will have this new agenda item caught up by that point so we can kind of mesh the two. I just want to let people know that we are meeting on the 23rd, which is next Tuesday, 6 p.m. We're going to continue our discussion on cannabis delivery. So that's something that we are going to be taking a little bit more. And I imagine that we'll also be talking about our new agenda items, which, if it so pleases the chair, I could add, unless Tom wants to do it. I could do the new business now. No? Okay.
Please go
So,
ahead.
all right. So in the form of a motion, I would like to move the two proposed zoning amendments related to housing to ordinance. And I think before someone seconds that, Barbara, should I move this to the planning board at the same time as well? No?
Can't, you have to take it and then it has to come back.
Cool. All right. Yep. So just move it to ordinance, the two zoning amendments.
Second?
Motion second to move the two proposed zoning amendments around affordable housing to the ordinance committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Dan Rist. Oh,
Dan's
sorry,
gone.
sorry, he's not here. Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye. I tried
Okay.
to unmute myself, but I was already unmuted.
Motion passes.
And unless anybody, my agenda is super small, so I don't think that we have any agenda items that need to be extended. I could be wrong, but
No, you don't.
that would mean that I would conclude.
Great. And just to confirm, the public hearing for Indigenous Peoples' Day is March 3rd, correct? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Councillor Derby. Property, Councillor Zaret.
Thank you. Our two existing items of old business, the pole location housing production plan, as you remember, although it's been a long meeting, but I'll remind you that those were voted on tonight. And we moved the new item regarding the easements at 1 Ferry Street. The committee members, Flood and Kwasinski, are you at all available next Wednesday at 6:30 to meet?
I just want to remind you that that's the public forum, and if they wanted to attend that.
I actually have a conflict on that evening.
Okay.
Maybe we could discuss this after the meeting and work something out.
That was the one date I thought of, so I want to throw that out there. I'll look at other available dates and we can discuss. So our next meeting is TBA, and I'll try to get that nailed down the next couple days, President Coniff, and this concludes.
Great, thank you. Rules and Government Relations, Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. We met last week to discuss primarily the request for an amendment to City Council Rule 5C. That was a productive discussion, but we had a few things that we wanted to sort of circle back on. So I don't have any. We're still discussing it. We also did discuss the proposed charter change for mayor compensation. We all really like this idea, but there was some concern from some councilors that it could be a challenge to send this to the state legislature while our other item was pending, the thing that we just had to reconvey to them. So what we voted to do was to dismiss it out without prejudice, with the strong recommendation that we take this up again as soon as our current petition before the general court comes back. So at this time, I would make that motion to dismiss the proposed charter change for mayor compensation without prejudice.
Second.
Motion second to remove the proposed charter change around mayor compensation from the rules agenda without prejudice. Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
But how about some discussion, please? since I introduced it, I had some. just
I'm
a few
sorry.
comments
I'm
before
sorry,
we vote,
Counselor.
If I may.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. It would seem to me that if this is in conflict with the current charter process, I have no objections. I would agree. However, I would caution the council that in order to make this change effective before we could vote again to perhaps increase the salary midterm for the mayor, and that was the point of the charter change, whether we could not make changes to the mayor's salary in midstream. And since we'll be going to the 4-year term, it's important that we address that and be able to push it through the process and get the charter change approved by the legislature. So I would ask Councilor Peak, what do you think the timeline should be that we would look to?
My hope would be to pick it up before the end of this term. And once we do, I suspect that we can move on it relatively quickly since it's a very straightforward and sensible amendment.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to dismiss without prejudice. Barbara?
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Sorry. And let's see, I think the only other thing is Councilor Flood had submitted a proposal, a remote participation adoption proposal. So at this time, I would make a motion to submit that proposal to the Rules and Government Relations Committee.
Would second that.
Motion is second to move the adoption of the remote participation rule within open meeting laws to the Rules and Government Relations Committee. Any further discussion? Oh, Councilor Zaret.
Just a quick note that I think this is just a really heads up thought, especially going forward and seeing, well, I won't say too much, but I'm thankful that this was introduced at the risk of sounding like I'm debating anything.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, do we not? We do. Barbara?
Salem Derby,
Salem?
Salem.
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff.
Aye. Motion passes.
This concludes.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the committee reports. I do want to do a little housekeeping related to our ad hoc committees. There is a, we have to kind of re-up them every year. So Barbara, do you think it's appropriate for us to make a motion to reaffirm ranked choice voting and then a motion to dissolve the principal assessor appointment subcommittee, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right, so Tom, can you make a motion to reaffirm the ranked choice voting?
Sure, I will make
Until
a motion.
February 5th, 2022, by the way.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reaffirm the Ranked Choice Voting Committee until February 5th, 2022.
Second.
Motion is second to reaffirm the ranked choice voting committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby.
Aye.
Okay, great. And Lindsay, could you make a similar motion to dissolve the principal assessor appointment ad hoc committee?
I make a motion to dissolve the principal assessor appointment ad hoc committee.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second to dissolve the principal assessor appointment committee. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
JP Kaczynski,
Yes.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Peg Coniff,
Aye.
Salem Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood.
Aye.
All right, great. We will probably be doing another ad hoc committee in the next meeting. Any further items? We've done new business, old business. Any last comments before we adjourn?
Motion to
Counselor
adjourn.
Rothschild? Excuse
What
me.
did you want us
Counselor-
to?
Excuse me, everyone. Counselor Rothschild, go ahead. Oh, you froze.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Counselor
Sure.
Rothschild.
She's
I'm here.
back.
No, I just wanted to, if you wanted us to check in with the other ad hoc committees that are still.
Oh, yeah, good point. Sorry about that. Senior tax work-off, Counselor Kwasinski.
In your tax work-off, we'll meet tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock.
I think our hope is to potentially get a presentation in front of this body on possibly March 3rd, maybe, hopefully.
You can keep that schedule clear. We'll be happy to do that.
All right, so far so good. It's looking good that night. So, all right, thank you. The Ordinance Review Committee, Counselor Rothschild.
Thank you. So we went through chapters 3 and 4. We sent out a letter to all the department heads and chairs of committees letting them know that we exist and they're asking for their feedback. I want to, oh, she already left. I was going to give Bree the award for the first person to give us a memo back after reviewing the ordinances that pertain to her department. And I was happy to hear Angelique had received it, and to get the Commission on Disability input is excellent. That's exactly what we want. We want different perspectives, because most of the bias or prejudice that we might, bias or discrimination we might find is unintentional and not even thought of by the people who wrote the ordinances. And that's why inclusive participation is so important. So if you talk to any department heads, I don't want them to feel like it's another memo they have to write. They can just call me and I'll jot down the notes. They can send me a scan of a marked up piece of paper, whatever they need to do to get us their feedback. We want to make it easy. Also, Lindsay from the mayor's office got back to me really quickly as well. So I'm just giving props. Our next meeting was going to be on the 24th, but I know I want to go to the community forum, and Councilor Gomez will as well. We're both in the public safety. I'm sure many of the members of our committee will. So I will look for a new date for our next ordinance review committee. Okay. And thus concludes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
One of as we chartered that committee, one of the items I believe was for that committee to present the city council with an ongoing report out of changes or any suggestions. Is there any, with data, I guess is what I'm thinking of, a more detailed kind of written, I don't know. I don't want to make it a burden, but something beyond kind of that you're on chapter 3. Is there any changes you've noted? Any?
Yeah, well, the main things we noticed some things that are just wrong, just checking, just factually wrong. There's also just a lot of vocabulary, pronouns. There's also, we've discussed veterans. Like when we mentioned veterans, that we also may want to include veterans who were dishonorably discharged because of their sexuality. So just looking at things like that, or with a wage theft ordinance or other things that look for women. What about non-binary? So we're just looking at all, or just even little things like there's something, we have really interesting conversations. One was about the bicycle helmet law for kids. And like, if you don't have a helmet on, you could get a fine. But do they ever give a kid a fine? Like, do they ever give the parent, like, if you don't ever do it, or if it's something that you might just do once in a while, it really opens you up for bias, because why are they going to give it to that? Like, that's really a point of education. So we kind of dug into where can kids get free helmets. Like, if a kid doesn't have a helmet, what's the next step in getting that kid a helmet? So it's just been a lot of really interesting conversations. And how about we give you a report like every couple of months so we can have.
Yeah,
we kind of we leave with homework and we go and we ask questions. Yep. And
would love it. I would love it, Councilor Rothschild, if maybe in the next few meetings we block out some time for you to do kind of a more in-depth summary of the things you've looked at, kind of what you just did, but blowing it out a little more. And maybe some of your committee members can come and give their perspective on that. I think 10 minutes or something would be great at your convenience.
That would be great. And I think what something we're finding is that, like I mentioned earlier, just people on the committee bring up things that you're like, wow, I didn't even think of that. And that's the
Right.
whole point of it, that for so many years, there's certain type, there was a certain demographic that was writing most of the ordinances across cities and towns and countries. And so bias happens just because sometimes it's intentional and malicious, but it's usually just often because you just don't think of others. You think about
Exactly.
yourself. You center your own worldview. So anytime we can be more inclusive and bring in other voices, it just makes our city, enriches the city for all of us. So it's been a really good process.
Awesome. Great.
So far.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Okay. We have
To adjourn?
now done the ad hoc committees. I'm sorry, what,
Move
JP?
to adjourn?
We can do, apparently we are.
Can we discuss?
I don't think so. We're just moving on. Barbara?
JP Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Craig Coniff,
Aye.
Dylan Derby,
Aye.
Erica Flood,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night and great week.